Sorry about the delay. We are doing a project. We call it, and basically we are talking with the big 4+4, and looking at what we call the MADS project, the multidimensional audit data system, or whatever it's called. And basically what we are looking is at how do they deal with large samples, and what are the current procedures. So we had already a visit with BDO last week, and this morning we did Crow, and because I'm here with you, I'm not doing ENY this afternoon, but Professor No and Professor Lee are doing it. And it's very, very interesting for the two of the one that I observed, how different they are. And I was kind of said the big four look alike, but looking at these two firms, they actually act quite different. And each one has kind of put together their own tools, so to speak. And the tools look not very similar. The tool that BDO showed us, I think I can mention it, although I can't show it. I don't have it to show you anyway. It's basically a general ledger analytic tool. And what it does, it looks a little bit like a spreadsheet. And you actually have a series of tabs, and one tab is Ben for law, the other tab is transactions of hours, etc., etc. And you go in the tab, and it does an analysis of a general ledger. Okay, the one today we talked, they basically don't go through a kind of material risk process. So they basically predefine materiality. You know what materiality is? Materiality is a level of acceptable error. Okay, and basically when you issue a financial statement, what you say is I have examined XYZ company, and its financial statements fairly represent. Fairly represents means free of material error. And material is like a level of error. Now you guys are reasonably quantitative, so you have to think the following way. Typically firms will use 5% of net income as materiality threshold. So net income, so total sales minus cost, that net income. Multiply that by 0.05, 5%. Now what's the problem with that? If a company had a bad year and barely had any profit, or if it had a loss, 5% of that means nothing. Okay, so you have to kind of interpret it in terms of steady state income, or what would be the normal income for this firm, for a firm like this in this industry. Okay, now I'll tell you a little bit of history, because there are a couple of things that might be worth noticing. And is the committee that actually worked on materiality was easily 30 years ago. And they hired this professor, John Grant Rowe, from University of San Francisco to do their empirical work. And the big 8 at that time were pretty willing to go with fixed criteria, like KPMG, Bob Elliott at that time, came out with a formula that was like a square, the cube root of the square of equation, okay, because he basically fitted the materiality threshold that they have been using in their engagements and found a curve that fitted reasonably well. And a couple of the other firms are quite willing to go with a reasonably numeric type of criteria. But the small firms really fought. And so they couldn't find consensus, and they came out with a very, very wishy-washy, with no quantitative guidance standard. And materiality, that has remained as materiality up to today. And then you start thinking about, okay, the allowable error is 5% of net income. So if you're talking about IBM and net income or net income of IBM is maybe $10 billion, 10% of $100 billion, just estimating here. And so 5% of $10 billion is $500 million. That's a lot of money, right? And Exxon, Mobil, all of those will have the same kind of story. Big companies with big income. And so, but of course, within $100 million of revenue, $500 million, $100 billion of revenue, $500 million is not that much. But if you start thinking that that's an allowable error, you have a little problem in your hands, or at least a perception problem. The other interesting thing, and there's a whole reason for this story, the other interesting thing is the attitude of auditors in relation to fraud. For years and years and years, the firms were represented at the time at the ASB, we set auditing standards, basically avoided any responsibility for detection of fraud. Why? Because it's very difficult to detect fraud. And typically fraud is not at these lofty material levels. Although when you look at Enron and you look at WorldCom, they were material frauds. And so the firms kind of avoided responsibility for fraud. What happened that the public thought that the firms looked for fraud. And the firms said, we are not looking for fraud. And the firms dominated standard setting. So they created all this responsibility avoidance, so to speak. When the PCOB was created, after Enron and WorldCom and et cetera, I heard a lawyer who was a board member say, well, the standards are all set up for responsibility avoidance, protection of liability. This is you legislating your own destiny kind of thing. Okay, Tom is laughing because you know what I'm talking about. Okay. But turns out that when the PCOB started, they basically imported all the rules that the ASB had. And at this moment, the world is divided between PCOB companies and companies that are ASB companies. PCOB companies are large listed companies. The other ones are under ASB. And then the PCOB realized that the responsibility avoidance thing is very difficult to get rid of. It is because some of it wasn't responsibility avoidance. Okay, some of it was, there is no other easy way to do it. And one of the stories here is the story of materiality. How can you come up with a criterion of materiality? So materiality is the number of dollars that you could detect an error below which you said there's no problem, it's a small error. Now, you studied engineering?
No.
Okay, I studied engineering. So if I ask, what's the length of this table? You would say it's 15 feet. Then him, of course, he never agrees with anything. He says, no, it's 15 feet and 1 inch. And then Peter will say 15 feet, 1 inch, and 2/10. And so you can measure things more and more precisely. And in engineering, they call this relative acceptable error. Mm-hmm. And you kind of do everything, making an error estimate because your precision of your instrument. Mm-hmm. And when you are measuring things like in the millionth of the centimeter size, you know those errors make us also relative error is important. And the same thing in materiality measurements, relative error. But the other point about materiality, which is very interesting to think about, is there are things that being material or not being material doesn't really matter. There are some qualitative things that you should look. I'll tell you an interesting story. When I was doing my PhD at UCLA, I worked with a company in Los Angeles area. They were a minority firm manufacturing African garments, dashikis or whatever they used to do. And their numbers in their financial report seem to me really good. No one knows if they really were really good, but they seem very, very good. year after year. I did this 2 years in a row. Third year I went there, and I couldn't understand it because they had no controls. There were maybe 100 people working there, and what happened in this third year, the numbers are horrendous. I could see looking at it for 5 minutes. So what was the difference? It was this old lady who was the head of accounting. She had an eye, and she knew when something was reasonable or wasn't reasonable. But there were no official controls in this firm. I actually always wondered how the accountants certified them. It was a non-listed company. They needed an audit opinion because they had loans from the bank. But I always wondered, how can they issue an opinion in this firm? There is no controls here. But there was a control, that old lady. And it's very interesting because you start thinking about kind of qualitative criteria. This was a qualitative criteria. If she was there, things were right. She was not there, things were wrong. And when we talk about, for example, cybersecurity, meaning just because a company haven't had detected an attack, doesn't mean the company haven't had an attack. And as I told you before, Cascio gives the password to her boyfriend. Okay, that's a violation of controls. He might use it, and that's a cyber attack. That is not a serious cyber attack. If you give your number for a girlfriend, you also violate it. Don't laugh so much. Anyway, so this materiality, the relative error, is very interesting how some firms, and then the next question is, what are you talking about materiality? You're talking about one big transaction that was wrong, or you're talking about 1,000 transactions, each one a few cents off, or you're talking about a couple of transactions in a certain category that is wrong, and they add together. And then the next thing, are you talking about materiality at account level, meaning cash is wrong or receivable wrong, or you are adding the errors on that one and offsetting with the errors in the other side. These things have not been clarified in the standard, because that standard was so messy when they created it that they don't dare to touch it. It has been a long time since they talked a lot about materiality. So that was I found it very interesting talking to the firm, to these two firms, and seeing how they are dealing with materiality. My purpose was very different. What we are dealing with is with the maths problem. The maths problem is the following. You already seen this, okay? The maths problem is you have a very large archive, let's say, with 1 million transactions. Okay? You run a full population test and look for what I talked about, price and quantity errors. You get 30,000 wrong. Okay? The standards said that if these are exceptions, you're supposed to examine each one of them. And it means that your budget for that audit will go bust, and you're going to have to put everyone in your company, meaning your firm, audit firm, examining 30,000 transactions, a lot of transactions, or etc. So that's the problem we have. And what do you deal? Now, how come this problem did not exist before? I'm repeating something because I think when I talked about this earlier, you were just beginning, you haven't even heard this type of problem. But what happened before? Before you had a population, and let me put it in different columns. And the population wasn't a million. The population was 30,000. Okay, a much smaller population. And that population, you use the EICPA table and take a sample of 50 or 70. And the rule was if you found an exception, you had to follow up the exception and find out what was wrong, and with that you could infer control weaknesses and etc., etc. But a sample of 50 or 70 or 20 doesn't represent very much in a population of 1 million. And so that's the maths problem. And what happened is that since this existed, things happened. Computers came in that can literally examine full populations. But the standards don't give you credit for the computer examination of full population. Now think about this. At the end here, you are much better off than you are here. Why? Because here you examine 1 million, and you know that 970,000 of them don't have a quantity or a price difference. So you know a lot, but that's not considered evidence today. It needs to be changed. So the objective of the maths project is to start creating filtering procedures. We developed this term called notable items, because according to the standards, if it's called an exception, you have to examine it. So we changed the name. And then the idea is that you create a hierarchization of these 30,000 and say the first 200 are worth examining, the other ones probably not worth examining. Also, when you have quantity or price differences, you kind of know what things are going to happen. Quantity difference usually means that someone who shipped for you or you shipped out, you didn't have the inventory. So you ship whatever you can to your client and wait until you have it and you deliver. And the price difference, typically you might have a contract that determines a different price from your price list. Okay? And these are normal things. But in the middle of that, there are some things that are not normal things and you need to follow up. And the question here that we are doing with maths is trying to understand what are the priorities that you put on the selection. And Hussein's dissertation talked about, Professor Issa now, here at Rutgers, called it exceptional exceptions, meaning let's figure out what exceptions are worth viewing. And just to make your life a little bit more miserable, okay, we talked about values, 5% of net profit, correct? But remember I talked about qualitative factors too. If certain things happen, might be worthwhile doing serious examination. So in addition to some quantitative exception criteria, we need to come up with a list of things that if they happen, there is big trouble. Do something about it. Like, for example, our process mining methodology identifies if the same person that originated an item also approved the item. So you approve your own transactions. That's a no. Because you could generate $1 million transaction. I approve it and pay it for me. Okay, can't do that. Any reasonable sized company cannot do. Now, if you're talking about hamburger stand, okay, one person working there, he has to originate and approve transactions. Yes? No? Hamburger for me, one hamburger for Tom, etc., etc. And he can approve it. But in general, that doesn't work. So there are these qualitative things that you work. And so what we are doing is talking to the 4+4 and asking them, how do you deal with this problem? And maybe in the moment of the final exam, I already can tell you how they deal with this problem. Let's see, I don't know. Actually, the two ones we talked already, they deal very differently with the problem. And I think one of them had kind of spotted that to be a problem. I don't think the other one, methodology, has really dealt with it. So that's the story. Now, today, Shao was going to come and talk to you about cognitive computing. And we are over there at Crow, talking to them at the AICPA, talking to Crow. And Ian Y was going to talk this afternoon, and I couldn't be there. So I left Chow there, and I said, I'll cover your slides. Okay? But before, and then I kind of looked at her slides, and I said, maybe I want to do something else before I do that. And I want to ask you this question before anything, and we already covered a little bit of this, but not enough. What is intelligence, And then the second question, what is artificial intelligence? What is intelligence? We already talked about this. David, what's intelligence? Give me an intelligent answer.
Say, like, your ability to think and solve problems.
Oh, very good, an operational definition. Yeah. Like intelligence is the result of your IQ test. And the IQ test is something that we put together many years ago and have tested many times. It's a non-answer. Can I get a little bit more? Oh, I like your answer, actually. Kevin, what do you think?
It's also the idea of learning and being able to apply new things. Because I feel like the computer itself is a tool that lets you do great things by not telling you on its own, because it's not continuously learning.
So solve problems, what David said, what you said is associated ability to learn. Is that correct? Anything else that you're going to call intelligence? Yes.
Well, a lot of social psychologists, they actually they take intelligence and they categorize it into IQ, EQ, and
What is EQ?
emotional intelligence.
Oh, I heard about that. I was in a seminar and I thought that the whole thing was BS personally. But don't report this to this guy.
Well, we're actually taking 2 classes, and literally it's teaching us about emotional intelligence.
Okay, so maybe it's not BS?
Maybe it's not BS.
Maybe I should read it. Huh.
This isn't really new to what everyone said, but I would say it's a capacity. It represents a capacity to do all these things. Problem solving, learning, taking in something and executing classes.
Have you noticed that no one said knowing things by heart? Remember, I was talking about Professor Sudit and my brother, okay, and I said, these guys are encyclopedic. Okay, they knew everything about every field. Okay, and you 20 years ago, you think this guy is a genius. Okay, and you would have said immediately how much they know and etc. Have you noticed you haven't said that? Because I asked you in the age of Google, what do you need to know?
For interpreting, digesting, and using information.
I just want to use interpret information. My son's wife, every time we sit down for dinner, she pulls out her cell phone. And it's very annoying. You're having a nice dinner in a very expensive restaurant, and I'm thinking about the bill, and she's in her iPad. Okay, and my friend Eric Cohn, the guru of XBRL gel, does the same thing. But you see, they are not being rude. What they are doing is they are following the conversation and answering the questions that come up in the conversation. At least I don't think she is texting with her friends. But when my son is not there, maybe she is, because they always say they love things. Okay. So today you are less reliant on your memory, you're more reliant on devices. And what's your brain going to do about it?
Well, I feel like we just spoke about automation and other things, Audit and how we can focus on specific things, like the machines do that less. So I feel like we concentrate on learning specific skill sets that we're becoming more intelligent on this particular thing instead of being a broad and average and everything, like that.
Do you think that you are talking about here, I'm following on what you're talking about solving problems, and then do you think that is a generic capability? You know how to solve a problem in mathematics, you also know how to solve a problem in a ship that is sinking?
Yes. Analytics.
You are intellectual. I am street smart. Meaning you are dumb. Remember the rule, never tell my wife what I said. Okay, and maybe we'll take this off of the video. No problem, she won't watch it because she's street smart. And she's Chinese. So she is very street smart.
I think to an extent, problem solving is inherent skill. You know, because some things you may be very good at math, you may be good at understanding mechanics and working on a boat or a car or something like that. But what it comes down to for ordinary people that don't have an affinity for something so specific is the willingness to analyze and go through something. If you could take the time to learn the rules or learn the procedure, you could solve problems. Not every problem, but you can learn the skill to an extent.
That's actually a very deep educational question that I asked. I am probably going to ask you to see a video to prepare for the final exam. And I haven't made my mind up, but I'm very inclined that way. And this video is by Clayton, what is Clayton's last name? The guy who does Innovator's Dilemma. And I'm acting like him. He had a stroke, and in this dilemma, in this thing, he hesitates. Okay, but he's talking about transformation of education, and he does like steel mills, and then he does several other industries, how they transform, and it's very interesting how he transforms from one field to the other field to the other field. I am actually curious if you guys agree with him or not. And that's what I'm thinking about, maybe putting that in the exam. It's a long video, it's about 1 hour and 20 minutes. Very interesting. Professor of Harvard, and he's saying why Harvard is not transforming itself as it should. Which I thought, the deans of Harvard won't be very happy about that. Imagine if I go around posting things on the internet saying why Rutgers is screwing things up, correct? I don't think Ray will be very happy with me. But here, it's actually very interesting. Have you seen?
What is the video called?
I will send it to you. I think I already sent it to you yesterday. Just the URL. And so, okay. This is the introduction, and I'm going to show you something. And I will go fast because some of these things with deep learning, etc., we already covered. Okay, first thing is what is this idea of singularity? I feel.
You should call him something. You should call him something by name.
Oh, no, I see the hands going up. Peter.
Isn't the singularity basically when computers become intelligent enough that they either surpass us or at least able to basically operate on their own without human interaction?
Yeah, I was going to say it's when machines are more intelligent than people.
And what do you think? You think machines will be more intelligent than people? You heard what I said here. I said machines can multiply 10 digits by 10 digits in 1 nanosecond. They can retrieve from 1 million pieces of data precisely, and you cannot. Can a machine build a financial statement? Can you? After Professor Sanella mistreats you for a few semesters, correct? But parallel to this question is the question I asked before. Is intelligence and ability to resolve problems field dependent? Meaning, is it different in accounting, in mechanical engineering, in financial accounting, managerial accounting, audit? And I think the answer here was, I think Tom was answering, maybe it's if you dedicate yourself. I actually think that that's what education can do, is teach you in narrow domains to do things that will take a lot of effort to do. It's a question of efficiency. And, of course, self-discipline, etc. Distance education has one big problem. What is it? Huh?
Discipline.
Discipline, exactly. Exactly. How many of you could go to the Rutgers accounting web and look at the entire accounting curriculum that we have there, 900 hours of videos,
I watched that.
and even test yourself?
Okay. Do they have tests?
They don't have tests, but you are going to take audit analytics in the January-March period, and we actually have a thing we call SWAM, School of a Million Courses, and what you're going to do is choose little modules of analytics that you want to study, and each one has a test. So you can love it, enjoy that. Mm-hmm. But I think knowledge is kind of a little bit knowledge dependent. And the other thing I would say, machines can prepare financial statements. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, because if you do something different, you have a different account, you have a different financial situation, like for example, you merge, machines have a lot of problems with it, unless many of those have been done before. Okay. So machines, and you know what I always say is, you probably haven't heard this yet, but GAAP, US GAAP, is very rule-oriented. And IFRS, the International Accounting Standards, are they supposedly principle-oriented. Have you heard this? Have you heard this before? Yes, I could see her going like this. However, machines are not very good at principles. Machines cannot interpret. Even if you create what we think today an artificial intelligent machine, they cannot really interpret principles very well. So I always say this whole discussion is a little bit of a new discussion, because if you are going to use computers in your large businesses, you are going to Okay, can we do a clicker here?
I can set it up.
Oh, you haven't set it up. Come here and set it up.
So you made a typo.
I made a typo. Oh, yeah. Good, like a cow. Did I spell vaguely correctly? Yes, I did. You can always vaguely correct.
Did you make these slides, or did you ask someone to make it for you?
Yes.
These are, I have professors that they don't make their own slides. They pay like someone else to make it for them. Like,
No, you have professors that go into Pearson and pick up the slides that come with the textbook. As I don't teach out of a textbook, I cannot do that. And I wouldn't do that anyway. But it's easy to say.
Okay, is everybody ready for the clicker question?
We haven't done clicker for a whole class for a long time.
You should have 31 responses. Pick your question.
Okay, let's stop there. He can answer that. No penalty. No penalty. Okay, so vaguely C is the majority. Yes is, and no is like 5%. Okay, let's go to the next slide. It's also a quick question.
You got it, Kevin? Okay.
with that. So what was B? Plausible. Okay, I don't know, and I just want to see what the other ones are. So, ridiculous idea, no one said. Plausible, 60%, 59%. Good, bad, I don't know. Okay, I want to hear why bad. Well, say bad, don't be embarrassed. Why is singularity bad? Peter.
So, I mean, I probably watched too much sci-fi as a kid, so in my head...
Not more than me.
I just see the singularity as a potential for things to go wrong. That's when the computers get too intelligent, what actually happens. Because the rules of robotics don't actually exist in the real world. So
there is no ethics by computers, correct?
Right.
Is that true?
At this moment, no. The MIT has a project teaching ethics to artificial intelligence. Okay, and I'm sure that people are doing that. When I talk to the PIOB, the PIOB supervises the IASB International Auditing Standards, and a group called the Ethics Group, and it's kind of the international ethics supervisor group in the accounting area. And the guy was asking me these questions. He was, what happens in artificial intelligence? There will be ethics. So I sent him a file of articles. He never heard. I don't think he read them, but
there's actually a Harvard Business case study that gives a scenario of a self-driving car. So there's a self-driving car driving on a highway. There's a truck that's spilled over, and stuff is coming out from the back of the truck. So what does a self-driving car do? Does it shift to the right lane and kill motorcyclists? Does it shift to the left lane?
That's a version of the train test, where the train is going down. If you pull left, you kill one person and save your life. You pull right, you die, but no one gets killed or something like that. There are a lot of these type of questions. I don't like this test. Basically, I think this is just hypothetical things. Same kind of thing, self-driving cars. Self-driving cars going to kill people? Of course they're going to kill people. That's not the question. The question is, are there going to be less people killed by cars with self-driving cars? Yes? Now self-driving cars will eliminate a lot of jobs. So we shouldn't do that?
Eliminate jobs. You're saying that's good to eliminate jobs.
So eliminate a lot of jobs, meaning industrial revolution eliminated a lot of jobs. Agricultural automation eliminated a lot of jobs. US was 35% all agricultural in the late 1800s. By the early 1900s was 5%. It was 40% industrial. The numbers are loose a little bit. Became 10% now. Okay, and what are the jobs that are going to be in real danger?
Pretty much any job that uses objective means function.
Repetitive, you mean?
Yeah, well, repetitive and objective.
Yeah. So is car driving a repetitive job?
Sort of.
Yeah.
It's an easily...
If you turn right, always to the right, sometimes you need to turn left. So it's not so repetitive. Now, if you can turn left and right, it becomes a little more repetitive. If you accelerate this asset, you start putting the variables in there. It's like auditing, a lot of variables in every direction. And how are they resolving this problem? All these subsystems, each one does one thing, and they have kind of some control. Have you ever thought of the following? You are driving and you're listening to music, and then a car stops in front of you. You, without thinking, you stop your car, slamming the brakes. So what is it? You are not thinking about slamming the brakes, because there is a subsystem of yours still driving the car. Okay, and it's like your heart is beating and you don't think about it. You are, and you can't feel your heart very well, but breathing, you can think about breathing, right? Isn't that yoga? You breathe better. At least my doctor says so. Yes? Yoga is about breathing. Does anyone here yogas? But isn't it about breathing? You see, I am not saying nonsense here, although I know nothing about yoga. Okay, it's a kind of self-repeating thing. Okay, so let's, thank you very much, but I think I'm going to have a few more later.
Yeah, let's
stay alert. But don't have to stay. Okay, I wanted to show you this, and this is called the hype cycle. And my friend Dan O'Leary, professor at USC, developed this. And this really doesn't come from Dan O'Leary. This comes from a whole set of consulting type of things. But this is actually very good representation of how technology develops. And it's kind of a bit old here, but I published this article about 5 years ago. But it says this is how technology, when technology comes up, there is a lot of hype around it. And then comes a point that people start forgetting because it hasn't delivered its needs. And some technologies will survive and start really becoming very useful. And I think in the deep learning AI arena, we are very much here. Okay, and the same thing happened with learning systems, which we call expert systems. Happened the same kind of thing. Went really out, all the firms started projects, and then they basically disappeared. Except that deep learning is a more solid type of technology, and computing power reached to the point that can make it, to a certain degree, useful. And I actually would like to see, to then update this. This is about 5 years ago. So actually more, August 2005. I actually pulled a more recent one. These, you have to pay for these things, so I didn't want to pay for it. But this is 2013. And you can see autonomous vehicles in 2013 up all there in the hype point. Big data is all the way in the top in 2013. Probably we are already going down on the hype point. But I don't think anyone will argue that autonomous cars, 3D printing, big data are going to disappear, correct? What's going to happen is they're going to become much more efficient. And then we are going to industrialize it. And you know these expert systems that I mentioned to you are rule-based systems. We were working on this. I published 6 books about applications of expert systems to accounting and auditing. That was like 85 to 90 something. All the firms had an effort on this thing. They disappeared, but they didn't quite disappear because they were impounded into traditional systems. Okay, but now with computers with much more power, it's kind of coming back as a separate field. It's very interesting to see what's actually really happening with this. Okay, now a little bit of history. This guy, Hubert Reif, he just recently passed away, divided artificial intelligence into 4 main areas. Game playing, like chess playing, or Go playing, or et cetera, et cetera. Creating original new formulas, translating language, and recognizing patterns. And 10 years later, he came back and said, you know, we are not making any progress. Oh, in the middle, Feigenbaum, this professor of Stanford, came out with this area which I was talking, expert systems, okay, whereby instead of creating original formulas, creating original paradigms, you basically try to help reality, okay? And so you just kind of, what we did, let's just give a couple of examples. At AT&T, we talked with experts, like auditors with a lot of experience, and say, what rules do you find? What rules do you use? And typically when we interview that, we call that knowledge engineering. They would say, oh, I don't have a fixed rule. I do is ad hoc. I do it depending on the situation. When you started giving them problems to resolve, and talked about the problems they did, they had rules, and they had a lot of rules. And we extracted those rules and put them in engine. If then. And companies like Digital Equipment, the computer maker at that time, would have configurators for digital machines with 10,000 rules. Okay, and they work. And actually, if you today use like American Express, and now and then your card gets rejected, you know what happened? It went to a rule-based machine that said, based on these variables, like where the transaction was, where was the prior transaction, the value of the transaction, etc., doesn't see that this guy is really doing the transaction, someone else. Okay, these so still existing, but now they are not like artificial intelligence. They are rule-based systems impounded into mainframes. And American Express uses that, all basically the MasterCard, etc., etc. So they added this fifth field, and actually like 60–70% of the research went into expert systems. Okay, and this is actually a reference to to the 6 volumes that we published. And we actually have just agreed with Emerald Publisher to restart the series. So we are going to be putting some articles there. Yes, sir.
I have a question. Why do accountants need to use natural language processing?
We talked there at the break. Okay? And then McCarthy set up an artificial intelligence lab, and et cetera, et cetera. And what has happened more recently is that the field is off. The hype curve is starting to really be used. And what happened? Happened that those 4 fields, first, gameplay. You heard about the big blue that beat the world champion of chess, correct? And you heard recently about the machine that beat the gold champion of the world.
Yeah.
Okay, so now machines can be, in most games, human. Okay, the other area is natural language. If we started with language translation, then we went to natural language, or vice versa. And what happened is that we are trying to do is this text mining stuff that either did structure of words, like this is a board, this is a pronoun, and etc., or did statistics. This word is used 3% of the time. There were multiple, 1 word, 2 words, 3 words, etc. And that's what we used to do. And then happened the following. People had an idea that was very, very different. And what was the very, very different idea? The Parliament of Canada had proceedings in French and in English. So they mapped them one against the other, so they had it in 2 languages. And then they looked for a sentence. If the sentence was in English, you could get it in French. And then they found this also in the European Parliament. And there were 8 languages, 24 languages, depending what you picked up. Now, why you could do that, you couldn't do it before, because computers are much more powerful now. And so you could go to a large set of utterances and find the right one. And they learned things like stemming words, meaning instead of taking the entire word, cutting just to the root, and forgetting about the ED at the end, or the S in the end, and etc., etc. And that improved the matching algorithm. And so they've done this, and they started getting reasonably decent translation. If you use Google Translate today, is it good enough to understand Chinese? Google Translate? Is it? Have you tried it?
No.
Yes?
Google Translate.
Not good?
Well, you can understand it. Like,
You can understand.
Good, but you can understand.
Yeah, you know, we have this project with the Brazilian bank, and I used to have to be in every meeting to translate. Now, when there are messages, I say, use Google Translate. And it's good enough. Sometimes it's kind of weird things happen, but most of the time it's reasonably good enough. Why? Because the basic paradigm of the semantics and the machine algorithm use changed dramatically. But it only could change with what happened now. Is computers very powerful, huge receptacles of information that you could do something with it and organize the knowledge. And so what's actually happening, IBM, what happened with IBM? IBM, I remember this book about 20 years ago by Catherine Fishman, and she was taught, one chapter is called IBM and the Seven Dwarfs. Okay, and what did that mean is that IBM was larger than its 7 largest competitors. So do you hear a lot about IBM today?
Not since it sold its PC business to Lenovo.
I think much before that, it started losing IBM on that thing. And it was the big computer company of IBM. Then the big computer company became Microsoft. In the middle was a company called Digital Equipment, who was kind of had these mini computers, but the mini computers basically were dwarfed because PCs came. And so Microsoft that basically did. Now it's Google. And people say Google is going to be the infinite company. It's not going to be the infinite company, it's the same kind of trend. Although they have a lot of information on it. And we have even more information on it. But what IBM is trying to do, and doing reasonably well, is investing in the AI area in deep learning. Okay, and I just want to show you this. This is what we used to call an expert system. And the same kind of architecture can be used these days for deep learning and etc. And basically what we had is something that combined the rules. We called it the inference engine, but you have 10,000 rules in a computer configurator, or you have about 1,500 rules like we had in CPAS. Okay, it kind of deals with an algorithm called backpropagation that teaches you, that allows you to choose what rule you apply first, depending on the circumstances. Okay, and so that's the inference engine. And then you have your knowledge base, meaning what you store, the way to use. And then you have a way where you acquire knowledge. And finally, you have something that explained it. This was a traditional expert system. These days, I haven't seen a lot of explanation subsystems in. For example, you ask Google, okay, Google, explain me this. Doesn't do very well. My granddaughter was really working Google hard this weekend, and Alexa. We have both machines. She went to one room talking with Alexa, went to the other room talking with OK Google. And she was very frustrated with it because I didn't identify all the music. But sometimes she says the name of the music, I have no idea what she's saying. Google understands. But it has this huge vocabulary and interprets voices probably better than me at this moment. Okay, but it doesn't have an explanation system. It mainly has a way to acquire knowledge, and it has huge storage of data. And the other thing for you to remember about Google, Alexa, the Apple one, that Siri, that is now they also going to sell a device like it. You have to remember is that these things sit in big cloud computers environments with millions of processors, huge storage. And they have algorithms to distribute the knowledge among that thing. And basically they are using a superhuman computer facility. Okay. And remember what I said before that I like to emphasize is, the algorithms haven't changed that much. The algorithm we use here, the backpropagation algorithm, is actually used also in deep learning. But what changed is the ability to do things 1 million times in 1 second, or 1 billion times in an hour, or something like that. Meaning that changed dramatically. And the size of the stores that you deal with, and your ability to distribute knowledge across Hadoop and and etc. Hadoop is the operating system that distributes knowledge in a cloudish environment. Okay, and so there is an evolution, but the evolution is not the way we had. We thought. Okay, I'm going to skip some things. Talking about the Turing test. Do you know who Alan Turing was? I know you know. Have you seen the play, Turing the Dilemma? Yeah. This guy was the guy who broke the German code in the Second World War. He was a don of Cambridge, I think, not Oxford, professor. And during the war, he didn't go to war. He stayed behind in England and developed mathematics to break the German code. And when he broke the German code there is a good film about it. Yeah. And when they broke the code, they kept it pretty quiet for a little while because they want to take advantage of what they could learn out of it. And you could argue that he was one of the major contributors of the Allies winning the war. Okay. The sad part of the story, he was gay, and they finished committing suicide because it was a crime to be gay in the UK at that time. And this guy had saved the country, just imagine. But he had this test, and he says, this is a Turing test. And there are people administer this test and put big money behind it. And the test is, how do you distinguish, how do you know if a machine is intelligent or not? And the test is very simple. Put the machine and a human being behind a wall and ask him, interrogate, ask him questions, him or her questions, or it. Okay? And if you can't distinguish if a computer or a human is answering, it's an intelligent machine. So, there has been a lot of competitions like that. Watson has done very well on these things. Google has a very, very good issue. Okay, talk a little bit about something else. Okay, this guy, Jamais Cascio, is a big futurist, one of the guys most respected for looking at the future. Artificial intelligence, information technology, virtual reality will radically change human existence in the decades to come. The future is too important to leave to the technologists alone. So, first question is, why is virtual reality here? Everyone knows what virtual reality is, to a certain degree, right? So why is virtual reality is here? Okay.
I feel like on the presentation talking about education, like there's a way to interact with people without living in comfort at home. So it has a lot of potential.
Has a lot of potential, but I want to give a little bit more. Why is virtual reality side by side with artificial intelligence information technology?
I feel like a computer can be intelligent, but through virtual reality it can present. It's a way for them to represent what they do.
Yeah, virtual reality. Go ahead, Harry.
I was just going to say it's a means for humans to communicate with computers.
I think it's more that virtuality changes the sense of time and location. Okay, you are in a virtual reality environment. You are basically kind of absent from the environment a little bit, or you are immersed on a different environment. That's why you're talking. But the next part of the sentence is very interesting. The future is too important to leave to the technologists alone. What is he saying there? I just want to remind you something in history. When the US did the Manhattan Project with the atomic bomb, a lot of scientists, some scientists were running away from Hitler and the atrocities that he was doing there, worked on them. And there was tremendous moral claim and worries about creating the super bomb.
Yeah, I was going to say, the way I read it is that it's kind of everybody's responsibility. But, you know, in terms of not just technologists, but scientists in general, even the general public. You know, if you have a new technology, then the more people use it, the more money that you can reinvest in the technology itself.
Yes. I think it's generic truth is the moment you can. Do you know the Nobel Prize? Why is the Nobel Prize exists? Because Mr. Nobel developed
Gunpowder.
Gunpowder. Not gunpowder. The Chinese developed gunpowder. I think it was nitroglycerin.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And so this was a very big, dangerous explosive. At that time, the most dangerous explosive. And he felt guilty about that. Because he invented this, was difficult for humanity, so he created this prize to improve science. And everyone involved in some more than others, on the Manhattan Project that had all these problems with it. Okay, at that time was fight the Germans or not fight the Germans and atrocity against the Jews, and so some of them felt very justified about it. But it's actually this is what it's talking about, is creating superhuman machines. Can't let only the people that know how to develop the machine think about the consequences of these machines. And do you know who Jonas Salk was? No one knows about Jonas Salk. You seem to know.
He developed the polio vaccine.
Right. Some of them don't even know what polio is. Polio was one of the worst crippling diseases of last century. And people who got polio got either died or got immobilized. And Jonas Salk developed a vaccine to the polio, and people like the Gates Foundation and etc. developed and passed it around so much that actually polio, unless you don't take care of it, is pretty much extinguished in the world. And you know, when I went to school, or when my kids went to school, you now and then went and saw kids that couldn't walk because they had polio. So it's a big thing. This guy Jonas Salk was a big guy. Being a good ancestor becomes especially challenging when you recognize that even small choices matter. It's not just a multi-million-dollar project and unmistakably world-altering ideas that will change the lives of the descendant. Sometimes, perhaps, the most profound consequences arise from the most prosaic topics. Mayan cities, cities in the Mexico area, etc., etc. Sometimes they're huge cities totally abandoned. And people don't know why these cities were abandoned. Turns out one of the theories is a very prosaic invention. It's the plow. And what they claimed that would happen at that time is that the logistics of basically farming around that city, became impossible because the land became too hard. And the logistics at that time didn't allow you to bring something in from Chile or something like that. So they had to abandon the city and go to places so that they could feed the people. Small invention, something to plow, actually wasn't small at that time, but so I think that's kind of a valid statement. Okay. Okay. I actually like this thing. It's called the metaverse, and the metaverse talks about four parts. One part is something that you are starting to use a lot, and you don't know. And what is augmented reality? Is some device that you use to explain more reality to you. So if you have your cell phone and you go to a football game and point towards a player, maybe you can get image recognition, face recognition to give you all the statistics of the player. Or you put a virtual reality mask and look at the game, and all the statistics are going there. You go to football games. I love football games. I have season tickets of the Jets, God bless me, since 84. Okay, my son was like 2 years old and he went to his first football game with me. But you know, you sit there for 3 hours, and for about 15 minutes something happens. The rest of the time you sit down there and it's boring. Okay, soccer at least people move around more, but that's kind of boring sometimes too. Basketball is more active, but everyone always putting a ball in the basket, so that's boring. So what do you want? You want enhanced reality. You want something that keeps you entertained and explains the world. And you could, besides football, there are, your car is driving and it can have enhanced reality to help you to drive the car or to drive itself. So that's augmented reality. The other thing that you actually do a lot is lifelogging. And I bet you most of you have over 10,000 pictures stored from your telephone. No, not 10,000? If you know how to back up here, how many you have? 100,000?
No, 50,000.
50,000. I have a lot of pictures. I have a lot of pictures. And not only I have a lot of pictures, I converted all the VCR films that I did for my kids into digital media. And so I have 50 years of pictures. And I get very aggravated when I can't see a picture of my mom or my grandmother. I have one picture, okay? And logging life. And now with the Google glasses, there is a guy, and I read about it in a magazine, that he, for 4 years, carried Google glasses and recorded everything that he did. So Luis is looking, ugh. Just imagine, go to the bathroom and you're recording. It's crazy. But actually people do a lot of recording in their lives. And that's going to progressively integrate more into this. Real world, something we use in our research, is the idea that you have the real world and you have a representation of the real world. Remember, June talked about real worlds when talking about Audit for all. Okay? And what was that is, like, for example, Google Maps is a mirror world. Why? Because you have a map here, you have reality here, and one matches the other. And sometimes there are the bridges. And there is this whole gaming environment that you create a fictitious world around you. And the most interesting thing when you talk about these 4 metaverse quadrants is that you can start mixing them up. For example, you can have lifelogging your usage of a mirror world. What does that mean? You are logging where you went. Same kind of thing as Google does, or as Amazon can do, and etc., etc. You mix these things. One, a log that you keep of your life. The other one, the expansion of the knowledge in your life. The third thing is the representation of the different things in your world. And the fourth thing is imagination and expansion of the world. Very interesting. And this is actually part of simulation that is starting to happen very common. And this is an example about James Cascio's thing. Can't leave science just for the scientists. You need the philosophers. You need the emotional intelligence. Is that what you call it? EI? Yeah. You need people in the different fields to think about what it is. And so the surveillance board, we owe it to ourselves to question what might happen when ubiquitous surveillance merges with artificial intelligence. I don't need to explain much more about this. You already can think about this by yourself. I mean, I gave you my example of the parking lot with face recognition. Now, parking lot face recognition, you know what your clients are, your employees are, maybe some bad guys that come into your parking lot. You put some threat recognition devices on it, and you know if someone being threatened with a gun or something like that. That's why it stops, so you can do much more. Can you do much more? Come on, guys. we already talked about some of that. What happens if Goldman Sachs gets those pictures of the Walmart parking lot? It's not about protection anymore. It's about predicting sales. What happens if you have those camera pictures from every Walmart in the world? What happens if you put these cameras in every street in Newark? What happens if you put these cameras in every street in Newark with some threat recognition on it? Do you think a lot of cops of Rutgers and Newark are going to lose their jobs?
No.
No, why?
Because the camera, it would just identify people who are starting a shooting or like robbing a house, and then it will automatically call the police. You still need like a cop.
You need someone with muscle and a gun.
Yeah.
In the good side, not in the bad side, correct? Yeah.
So I feel like it may reduce crime because people are coming like, okay, they're watching you, they know every movement. So
that was my reaction to this, is what's going to happen is like they call in Brazil in the slums, they create a pacification. What that did is they put police in the slums. What happened is that people move to the next city. Yeah. I actually never understood why they don't fill up with cameras around the Rutgers area. I suggested this, but no one paid any attention to my suggestions. And not only you need to fill up with cameras around, you need to let people know you have the cameras. You don't have to let them know that you don't have anyone observing them and your threat recognition software is not very good, right? And anyway, I bet you that that would increase the efficiency of the police. It would make policing more efficient. But this is a very interesting moral question because privacy is gone. Okay, you're taking the job away from a mugger. That was a joke. Okay, and so this is virtual worlds of gaming, mirror worlds, which we talked about. This is augmented reality, and this is lifelogging. Okay, I just wanted to show you a couple more things here. This is actually, this guy, he is kind of the big talker about singularity. His name is Kurzweil. And you have this slide, so you can just click on them, and he'll take you to his website. And he shows why technology is accelerating, and pretty primitive kind of stuff. But it's very good. It's very good if you want to think about singularity and et cetera, et cetera. It's worth having a look at. Okay, I just want to suggest you to look at the book. And this book is by two MIT professors. And I'm trying to find the reference. And Eric Bolshon and Andrew McAfee, we already heard about them because I talked about these two guys. And this basically talks about it started in 2014, the second machine age, and talks about effects in the second machine age, some of them that we have already discussed. It's worthwhile reading. Okay, I'm not going to do this cognitive computing here because I want to show you Chow's slides, at least for a second. And we already covered deep learning with Sophia's slides, but I wanted to show you Chow's slide a little. So what did we do? We were interested on this phenomenon in creating a smart decision support for the firms. The firms, what we have noticed in the past is that devices are basically spreadsheets on steroids. Okay, they have spreadsheets and spreadsheets, and they have tools like Score and et cetera, that store things for them. Also, what we noticed is that in addition to spreadsheet on steroids, they have basically two stages on the audit. One stage of the audit is where they do internal control review. The other stage of the audit is where they look at year-end numbers. And we have been arguing for a long time that we shouldn't do this, but we should do what we call audit by exception. This is what I talked last time, continuous audit. And what is continuous audit is an audit that you have some of the audit procedures automated and they pull exceptions. And the auditor, instead of doing these procedures, ultimately what they actually do is look at exceptions. And if they find a lot of exceptions in some sector, then they spend a lot of time looking at what's wrong with that sector and try to correct the controls, correct the methods they are doing. So this is one part of the story. And so we actually, what we did is there is a stage of the audit which is called brainstorming. And that's here in the beginning of the audit, every year. And what you do in this brainstorming stage, that's part of the auditing standards, you identify risks. Identify risk and then put your audit resources into that risk. If the risk is very small, remember material or not material, then if the risk is very small, then you don't audit. If the risk is very large, you have to spend a lot of time trying to understand how things are going there. The other thing is that this thing is retroactive. You're going to look what the firm did last year. And actually with current technology, you can look at what's happening right now and maybe even avoid bad transactions to go ahead. We call that the predictive audit. So what actually Chow did, is Professor Brown actually did a lot of the work. She's going to be our Professor Brown Libet. What she did is we got 4 teams of partner and manager to do this exercise of identifying risk, like they would in an engagement. So they basically mimicked the audit of some firms that you would recognize the names. They didn't tell us what the firms were, but a couple of them were very obvious who they were. Okay. And then what they did is they did a thing we call verbal protocol analysis, suggested by Herb Simon, who was Nobel laureate, which is basically if you can't probe someone's brains to see what he's thinking, have him tell what he's thinking, and then you examine the protocols of what he said. Okay, and so the way traditionally verbal protocol analysis were done is you would sit down with a subject, in this case partner, and you would train him to speak aloud what he's thinking. And if they got quiet for a little bit, you say, speak, speak, speak. Okay, and you gave them a case, and then he worked on the case. And you trained him with the case. What we did is we got a manager, saying, you're a new manager on this engagement. Get ready to discuss with the partner the engagement you're going to be starting. So there was no prodding and etc. They were talking very well. And we kind of interpreted what they did. Get data, make a decision, look at the comparison, etc., and look at the stages of the audit that they were actually performing.
And looking, no, I misspoke. Look at the things that they were doing. So the brainstorm meeting for the twist, this is the standard. And what we decided is to create the framework. We are not developing a program yet. Probably we will eventually do a little bit of a program. For what the cognitive assistant, the assistant that really helps in the audit process will do. Now what the firms are doing today is spending a lot of money in two things. One is deep learning, and the other one is blockchain. But it turns out that most of this thing is really applied more for consulting than for the audit, at least up to now. And after Chow did this work, and she's continuing to do it because it's going to be her dissertation, it kind of became obvious to me that that's not what they should be working. And I have said it to many of them, and they say, oh yeah, but maybe they're just being polite. Okay? And so these were the verbal protocol analysis that she did, and actually this is the core of the architecture of what we are doing. She basically broke down the brainstorming process in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I always say 12, but I wasn't sure about it. And each one of them is going to have cognitive help. And so the idea about this is the following. Is you break your decision spots in very narrow domains, and then you do deep learning. You teach the machine how to answer those questions by multiple repetition. Very interesting question, and interestingly enough, I talked with a very senior partner of one of the firms, and the first thing when we talk about deep learning, he says you have to make things narrow. And remember, PwC, KPMG, Deloitte, they're all paying millions and millions of dollars to either use Watson or use the Google app and etc. One is doing it on contracts, the other one is using on leases, and the third one is doing bad debt assessment for banks, which are reasonably wide problems. So, just for you to imagine how this is going to work, is you talk to your computer in one of the 12 stages. This computer forces you to go to questions like understanding the business. What industry are you? What business? What are the issues of this business? What happened between this year and last year, if it's a second year audit? Okay, what are the most significant accounts? Okay, what those are the risks in those accounts? Are there any going concern issues? Are any accounting policies issues? And what we found is that in those actually 5 engagements that we simulated and we looked at it, there was a reasonable consistency on the sequencing of these things. Now, immediately we don't know if this is just one big 4, the way they do things, or every firm will do this. I haven't found a second firm to confirm it, but maybe. And the next thing is, this should be a conversational thing. It's like Siri or like Google. What are new events that happen? You say the new event, the machine captures it. Okay? And then the machine says, in this industry, this typical event happens. And this is like Siri or like Google. What it is? You create a long, long list of questions that you know. Okay? And those questions fall into basically 2 categories. And then in 2 other type of dimensions. 2 categories is questions that have an answer. The other type of questions that have to pass a parameter. Like, for example, what time is now in Rio de Janeiro?
What time is now? You need to understand what time is now. But the moment you understand that, then you can say that verbally in many different ways. Okay, so this module needs to understand that there are many different ways what time is now is expressed. And then there is this little module that says Rio de Janeiro, identifies it and bangs, looks it up on the table. So there's really two types of questions. Questions that preset questions and questions that you parameterize. And then there is the other dimension of a new question comes up. Can you automatically answer it based on your experience? Or you need a person to answer it? And then that question is impounded there after the person answers. And if you think about what the 800 numbers on the CPA firms have, they don't call it that way, but each firm has a technical department. And what the technical department does is answer audit questions. So you are in an engagement, something happens, either your partner is not there or he doesn't know the answer, your manager doesn't, you call up and say, what do I do? Interesting story, for example, in Enron. Okay? They went to review by the 800 group, and the guy rejected it, said, this is wrong, this is not going to work. Okay, and what happened is the top management of Anderson rejected that and forced it to be. And actually that was the beginning of the whole catastrophe, or the middle of the whole catastrophe. So, what's so exciting about this idea? What's exciting about the idea that we discovered that a lot of the questions are very common. Second thing, a lot of the questions are very trivial. And the answers are reasonably easy to do it. But you can't expect a partner and a manager to have experience on everything. So you need to accumulate, and just imagine, just theoretically imagine that this firm has 1,200 partners, and each partner uses it for his 20 engagements that he is the partner of. So each year they would have 10,000 new examples, or more than 10,000 examples. Can you imagine how rapidly this thing would accumulate a very interesting knowledge base? Very powerful idea, correct? And then this whole mix of questions that only a person can respond, and then questions that are parameterized with some knowledge. And then enrich it a little bit. Questions that you put analytics behind that are pre-programmed for you. Calculate a bad debt loss estimation. And maybe the thing can do it connected to the systems. So it sounds like an interesting idea, correct? When we started talking about this, I said, why are they doing this? This would be tremendous for the firm, and I still think that way. And so she actually broke down in finding information, comparing with baseline, putting new analytics, helping how to use the system, looking at the auditing standards, or looking outside the web search. This would be buttons on the system. And some idea of characteristics: record information, retrieve information, question and answers, comparison with baselines, analytics, some help. We found that with the CPAS project, the help document was very, very important. You see, I'm not that confident that retrieving from standards will be that easy. We haven't tried it. Okay, it would be kind of nice to have you guys go to your CPA exam and Luca, tell me this, and you would answer a standard for you, and you would like, you know why Luca, correct? Who was the first person who organized bookkeeping entries? Fra Luca Pacioli. Okay, he was a monk. He was a monk in Italy in the late 1400s that picked up the habits of the ways Venetian traders were doing the bookkeeping and and wrote a book called Summa Mathematica, which is the first formalized double entry book. Luca Pacioli. So his name would be Luca. Okay, so these are the capabilities that this thing would have. Okay, and the other slides basically show on those 12 things what kind of information we already have. But let me give you an example of questions. Yes, Ian.
So is this a service that they would offer and charge for?
Huh?
Is this a service that they would charge? You know,
I think that, that's a good point. Good point, never thought of this.
Because the only reason I ask is if it's kind of a automation service, then would they not be hesitant because you could lose billable hours for people?
That's, okay, you are even asking a different question than I thought at the beginning, but it's a good question. Okay, the first question is this an internal or external tool? Can they sell this to someone? What do you think, Andrea?
I thought it was an internal tool.
I thought it too, but now what he asked, I said, don't you think an internal audit department would like it?
Yeah, they would like it. But I don't know if the audit firm would want to share this information.
I don't know if Rule 301 of the ICPA would allow them to share this information. Remember, these rules are from the past. This would be very good for society if this information gets shared. We had this guy from PwC visiting us. When was it? Thursday? Yeah. Thursday. His name is Mike Smith, and he's the partner in charge of blockchain and continuous audit at PwC. I wish I could have got him to come here on a Monday and get you to hear the guy. He was good, wasn't he?
It was really good.
Yeah, we drilled him intensively. Everyone was asking questions. It was very good. But he's basically, the continuous audit practice of the firms is not using continuous audit in their engagement. It's selling continuous audit to the internal audit departments. Very, very interesting. And he was very charismatic, very interesting guy. Now, this is actually questions from our data that give you an idea of, in this level 3, on this step 3, where are the new stores that opened this year? List the new acquisitions and new ventures. Tell me more about new and important ventures. Let me say, call your attention to something else. It's not only about what he asks, what they are asking in the conversation, it's also about what they didn't ask. Okay, now, if you have Luca paying attention to this, and typically people ask this 5 questions in an engagement, what would Luca do? And say, why aren't you asking a question of what stores open? So it's very rich. It's very rich. And if you would have 10 years of engagement and many different industries, this has to be by industry. And to make it even more complicated, companies are in many industries. So you would have to have a planning for each sector, basically. Because I don't think you can do it universally. But it's pretty cool, isn't it? Okay, and so I can give you the slides, Charles slides, and you can see what this is. And when you interview the firms, you can talk about a cognitive assistant. What you're going to get is a blank stare. Okay, but you can talk about it if you want to impress them. Okay, so I'm going to send you these slides. Can you remember, Andrea? And you guys need a break. I can see some silly faces here. Okay, so let's have a little break, and then we're going to have 2 presentations, correct? And the first group presenting, can you come and set yourself up? Okay. Okay, let's go. Okay.
Everyone, can I have your attention, please? Maybe. I got a maybe. Okay, so today we're going to present about a famous company that most of you have ever used one time or another, which is Uber. My name is Kevin.
My name is Philemon Davies.
I'm Eric.
So today, we're going to be talking about the background some of the current services of Uber, some of the competitors, the idea of a sharing economy. At the same time, we're going to talk about the disruptive economy, some of the innovations, controversies, and some thoughts about the future of Uber. So we're going to show you a brief video of what is Uber, like as a starter. So don't mind the voice. You won't know why.
Do you hate sitting in a taxi and watching the cost of your ride keep going up the longer you're in the car? Ever wish you could have known the cost of your trip ahead of time? If you're tired of the inconveniences that come along with traditional taxi services, you should give Uber a try. I'm Jessica from TechRumors.com. In this video, I'll tell you about what Uber is and how it works. Now let's get started. So what exactly is Uber? Uber is an independent taxi company that hires drivers who use their own vehicles. Drivers log into the Uber app on their mobile device to show that they're available to drive, and passengers can request rides using the app. Enter the address of where you want to be picked up and where you want to be dropped off, and pay for your ride with your credit card right in the Uber app. There's no exchange of cash involved. Uber is currently available in over 75 countries and over 500 major cities and urban areas worldwide. So how does Uber work?
Okay, so this is just a brief introduction of what is Uber. I feel like most of you guys already know and have used it, or have it in your phones, or have a similar app which is left competitive. But let's start with the background. So most of you guys are wondering, where did Uber come from? So first of all, when you think about Uber as a consumer, it's a convenient, inexpensive, and a safe way to get taxi services, all at the fingertips, with your phone. As a driver, it lets you become your own boss, and it provides exceptional pay. That's what they say. People can argue about that. Okay, so who created Uber? So we had the two co-founders, which is Gary Can and Travis Can. So it started in 2009. What started as an app to request premium black cars in a few metropolitan areas is now changing the logistical fabric of cities around the world. Whether it's a ride, a sandwich, or a package, we use technology to give people what they want, when they want it. Uber Technology Inc. is an American technology company headquarters in San Francisco, California, operating in 633 cities worldwide, around the world. Develops, markets, and operates the Uber Cars transportation and food delivery mobile apps. Uber drivers use their own cars, although drivers can rent a car to drive Uber. Uber has been a pioneer in the sharing economy. In 2015, Canada spoke about his desire to eventually move to using self-driving cars for Uber vehicles. By May 2015, the company had hired many researchers from the robotics department of Carnegie Mellon University and established Uber Advanced Technology Center in Pittsburgh.
Hey guys, my name is Phil. I'm going to be covering services that Uber offers. Uber offers different services tiers spanning from single rider and groups up to executive lane mode. If you have the Uber app, whenever you request a ride, you have 4 options. They from Uber X, Uber XL, Uber Black, and Uber Select. Uber X is the cheapest and most common form of Uber. It's a regular customer car that holds up to 4 passengers. Uber XL is a service that accommodates 6 passengers with an SUV or minivan. It's more expensive compared to Uber X. Uber Black is a luxury limousine service with vehicles dedicated to executive level services. Uber Selects offer luxury vehicle brands at a high premium. Expansion of Uber services. We have Uber Pool, Uber Eats, Uber Rush, Uber Bolt. Uber Pools allows you to share your ride with another person and split the cost. Uber Eats is an online meal ordering and delivery platform. It partners with restaurants in dozens of cities around the world. It also provides analytics for 30,000 plus restaurants it works with around the globe. The new interface will give restaurants three things: information around bills and how they are performing, how efficiently they are running the in-store operations, and metrics on customer satisfaction.
So, a new feature that Uber Eats has is analytics. So that's what Phil was saying, that they provide some information for the restaurants. Right now, we're just going to show you a quick video of how they actually do it and what other services they're providing.
When you run a restaurant, you're constantly making the call. Brioche bun or sesame? Should we bring in cousin Joey to help with the weekend push? Will a new deli slicer speed up prep time? But we've heard that you don't always have the information you need to make the right call. So we thought, how can we use data to give you a window into your business? The solution? The new Uber Eats Restaurant Manager. Here's how it works. Go to uber.com/restaurants and sign in. Then tap the Analytics tab and feast your eyes on information like your top sales days, most popular dish, customer sentiment, and so much more. So instead of making a call, you can know for sure that people prefer the brioche over sesame. Joey should actually come in Wednesday for the afternoon rush, and the deli slicer sped up prep time by 2 minutes. Then you can make adjustments that matter. We're always working to improve Restaurant Manager so you can grow your business on your own terms. Restaurant Manager gives you data for decision making, and it's all at uber.com/restaurants.
Alright guys, so as Phil was saying, Uber Eats has this new feature because there's a lot of competition, so they need to bring something else, which is the analytics portion. But not only deliver the food, but also provide some data for the businesses to run.
Alright, next on the list is Uber Rush. Uber Rush is a new on-demand delivery service that connects shared economy carrier with businesses, individuals who need to schedule on-demand pickups and deliveries. Uber Bolt is got launched on June 26th of this year. It provides services for tourists and residents alike among a few islands in Croatia, particularly focused on getting to and from the airport. And I also I believe split cost, right?
Yeah, they have between 6 people or 8 people. But the cost is between 345 euros or 500 euros. And you split the cost between the passengers. So why they do it in Croatia? Because it's a success area. They're not trying to put it all over on the world. They thought about Greece, but they have a lot of boats, there's a lot of competition. So in order to provide a smooth service between the airport to the actual island, they created Uber boats. As Phil said, they just started this June 26, and it's just a testing period to see if they actually can expand the idea of Uber boats. And there's a lot of services that Uber has created. It has actually improved the economies in those areas. Eats, Rush, basically New York City, you can see as a way for them to pair with the carriers and find businesses that actually need the carriers to bring a package from one place to another. So that's the idea of Uber, expanding it.
Just a question about Uber Eats. I never used it. I thought it was like seamless. It picks up food for you in the livings. And it's not. It's about analyzing restaurants.
Everything. They actually, because they have other competitors, they started like that. This is a delivery system. They have it in their actual app before, and they decided to branch out and create their own application and their own platform for Uber Eats. And then they integrate the idea of analytics. I know, for example, Hangout usually use this, Uber Eats. They pair with McDonald's and other big chains.
Has anyone here used Uber Eats?
And you can also, it's a great way because you just deliver the food and you tip. All through your phone. That's it. So.
Or you don't do it.
I know, but it's sorry. Somebody say something else?
I was just saying I didn't know you can use the data to do analytics.
Yeah, that's why, as I said, there's something that they just started recently, like a year ago. Because they needed to compete with the other delivery systems they have out there. And by providing data, they just started like a year ago, so they need to collect more data by helping them to market themselves compared to their competitors.
But is this available to any customer or to the company? Like
the restaurant itself, not the customers. The company itself will use the data to improve their products or see what is working, what is not working, to speed up the products, as the video said. It's all for themselves, for them to see.
Meaning it's interesting because they are doing what they did in the transportation business. They're expanding with digital services, the service. And I never kind of thought before getting it, when I got the cab, that I hated to pay in the last moment, and I hated to hail a cab in Manhattan, and etc. And I find Uber great. I'm sure many of you use Uber. Last class, and maybe this class too, a group of girls that came every day by Uber, went every day home by Uber, shared it 4 people, so it was cost efficient. But the nice thing is the digital expansion of the service.
All right, so I'm going to quickly go over the different companies that are competitors to Uber. The first one that I'm sure you're all familiar with is Lyft. It's basically the same thing as Uber, uses the same technology. But another one is BlaBlaCar, and it's the largest long-distance ride-sharing platform that connects drivers with empty seats and passengers to share travel costs. Cabify is another company, and it's a ride-sharing company that operates in Latin America, Spain, and Portugal. And Taxi Mobility is focused on the development of dispatch software solutions for taxi, limousine, courier, delivery, and more. Another big one, which is popular in China, is Didi Chuxing. Am I saying that correctly? Didi Chuxing? Okay. So it was conceived as a merger back in 2015. And it's a ride-hailing service company made up of China's 2 largest taxi-hailing firms. Didi Chuxing is often referred to as the Uber of China, and it virtually owns all of China's taxi-hailing market with 99% market share and 87% market share when it comes to hailing private vehicles. And the last one that was interesting to read about was Ride Austin. Ride Austin is Austin is a handful of places in the U.S. that have banned both Uber and Lyft from doing business within the city. Essentially, a disagreement in how both are operated led to the city to fund its own ride-sharing service, Ride Austin. Ride Austin is but one of a handful of local ride-sharing apps, but Austinites say that it's the most popular. Drivers like it as well. So basically, Uber and Lyft cannot operate in Austin.
So we already talked about competitors, services, and some of the history back of Uber. But then the question is, who cares, right? Who cares if Uber is operating here or not? But the answer is like it affects the economy one way or another. So right now I'm going to talk about Uber as a shared economy. The so-called sharing economy generally refers to the phenomenon of turning unused assets owned by an individual into a productive resource. Uber, Lyft, and others make it possible for anyone to use their cars to offer taxi-like services. Like sharing economy, it generates value by matching these assets with consumers willing to pay for the service of those assets. The genius of sharing economy, however, was to harness new technology, smartphones, GPS, payment system, identification, and feedback mechanisms, to allow almost anyone with the right assets to make those services available outside of the formal, in this case, taxi industry, but we also have hotels with Airbnb. It's also part of the sharing economy. In other words, this new technology significantly reduces the transaction costs of matching underused assets to those willing to pay for the employment of those assets. So basically, it's really easy for me today, in 5 minutes, to set up my own Uber account and start driving you guys around New York and get some money. It's easy for me to start use my room when I'm in school to rent it for people who need it. So that's the idea of the sharing economy. Basically, when you're not using it or sitting down, you can basically rent it, have it produce something for you. So now we have the other side of the coin, which is disruptive innovation or disruptive economy. So Uber has followed a disruptive path to its success, taking out on the taxi industries by providing affordable and convenient means of transportation. He has also taken over the black limousine market by servicing people who wanted black cars but couldn't afford it, and also mobile GPS technology allows drivers to navigate passengers to their destination quickly. So this is a quick diagram of taxis in New York after Uber. So if you can basically see the trend, it's actually the daily trips is going up into the moment that Uber comes into play in New York. The taxi trips actually goes down. It's a clear indication that Uber is being disrupted in the taxi industry. And one of the reasons for this wasn't that good, without a doubt, the ability of technology to break down artificial regulation and to entry as an entry barrier. Most cities has a restriction on the number of taxis. In the case of New York, they have the medallions. I know for a fact, one of my uncles, he had a medallion and the price actually went down by 25%. So you can see how it's affecting some people.
The medallion came to a point was worth $1.3 million and is now something like $5 million.
Yes.
And several of the medallion companies went bankrupt because they borrow money, buy the medallion. And the value of the loan, the value of the medallion was much below the value of the loan. I can be honest. So people that fault.
Sorry, continue. Also, the lack of supply relative to the demand caused, as I said just now, taxes to medallions to actually go down. Our professors say it was over $1 million by 2013. By 2015, however, the price of the medallion had fallen by 25% in response to the competitive price sharing services. Uber has severely reduced the value of licenses, as Uber drivers do not need licenses to enter the market. Licensees no longer grant protection from the competition, as taxi drivers are no longer able to set off their licenses as expected, and they're not financially protected against such sudden devaluations. So really quickly, I'm going to show a video of what Uber as a disruptive economy is causing around the globe.
There's nothing quite as magical as staying at a Disney resort hotel. So imagine complimentary rides to and from the park, even extra time with your family in the park. And this summer, you can save
also get paid by promoting Disney once in a while. Actually buy
So if
some.
you're not staying here, just think what you might be missing.
Thousands of Spanish taxi drivers have gone on strike in Madrid and Barcelona to demonstrate against what they believe is unfair competition from shared ride businesses like Uber and Cabify. The services face protests worldwide for offering to match private vehicle owners with customers seeking a lift. This taxi driver in Madrid, where her sector is heavily regulated, says they're not against competition, but rules must be respected. What we don't want, she says, is these people not following the law and trying to compete with us as they did with Uber Pop, an application using tourism vehicles without the appropriate license. Unions are calling for tighter restrictions on shared ride services. Uber was banned in Spain in 2014, but began operating again in Madrid last year with a more regulated service.
I actually had the opportunity to travel to Europe a couple years ago. And actually, as I was there, I would ask people if they, where can I get Uber? And most of the time they would tell me they're not allowed here, or there's been strikes for the public transportation. And taxi companies in Europe have gone to court, arguing that Uber does not comply with the regulations, and therefore engage in unfair competition. Uber is banned subject to serious restrictions in Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, and Spain. Such decisions have intensified the debate around Uber. The solution to all of this is not to ban Uber, but to regulate it. And now we're going to go to innovations, and our partner Phil is going to take care of it.
Uber innovations. Uber is one of the most innovative companies of 2017. Uber has a fleet of self-driving cars. They recently signed a $300 million deal with Volvo to provide a fleet of self-driving cars. Uber has they created the world's first autonomous truck delivery and was successful with its first delivery of 50,000 beers. The new app feature helps to improve road safety, provides daily report to drivers about how their driving patterns compare to other drivers, and gives suggestions on how to improve driving in the future. With the app, it sends daily reminders to drivers about the importance of taking breaks. The speed display alerts drivers to speed. The speed display alerts driver to the speed of the vehicle. This picture depicts Uber self-driving car. It has the ladder beam, the camera, the antenna, the cooling system, the ladder modular, Uber self-driving prototype used 64 laser beams along with other sensors to construct the internal map. As you can see, this is what a Uber self-driving car looks like. For those of us that don't, well, I don't even know the definition, but I wrote it down. The ladder, a ladder is defined as a detective system that works on the principle of radars. It uses light from the laser, as you can see on the top of the vehicle. Self-driving car safety. Safety is an overreaching concern. Many thousands of people die in motor vehicle crashes in the United States. More than 30,000 in 2015. Self-driving vehicle could hypothetically hypothetically reduce the number of software and could be improved to be less error-prone than humans by cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is also the chief concern when it comes to self-driving vehicles. This graph shows it depicts how often the driver assists with on the side it has like the miles, like as you driving, as the car is moving, how often the driver takes over like every
1,000 miles.
Yeah, a mile. Yeah.
This must be 1,000 miles because it has to assist one time every mile. Is very high.
I think that's true, though. I think it does have to assist it for 8.8 miles. And in city driving, I think it's more prevalent to having people intervene with it just because there's so many different variables that can happen on the road.
So is that higher?
It is that
it's not ready for time.
This here shows one of Uber self-driving vehicles.
That's great.
Produced by Volvos. Self-driving cars operational in San Francisco, Pittsburgh, and Phoenix. Just in case you want to go and experience it, you have to go over one of those three. Uber also has Uber Elevates. By 2020, the company wants to have its first public demonstration of 8 networks of electric planes that would ferry passengers at 150 miles through urban skies to their destination. Uber Elevates Elevate has partnered with Dallas Fort Worth and Dubai to be its launch partners. It is aimed to debut the Uber Elevates network when Dubai hosts the World Fair in 2020. Sorry about that. Uber also has its Uber Elevates, also called flying cars. The vision for Uber Elevates is to build a network of vertical takeoff and landing VTOL aircraft that would make aviation on demand. Uber for now has decided not to build its own aircrafts, but partner with other manufacturers who are designing planes to fit Uber's design needs. Uber argues that the plane will have key advantage over helicopters. Since they will be electric, the planes will have zero emissions and and they will be significantly less noisy than helicopters. Harry's going to cover controversies.
Yeah, Uber has not been the most popular company in recent times. So I'll get into controversies. In February of this year, Waymo, which is Google's self-driving car spinoff, filed a lawsuit against Uber. It alleged former employee Anthony Lewandowski illicitly downloaded 14,000 technical documents, including the blueprints for the LiDAR sensor, which I think the LiDAR does the 3D mapping of the road and the other cars on the street. And so it took the LiDAR sensor technology and the technology considered essential for fully autonomous vehicles. The worst case in this scenario is that Waymo uncovers evidence that Uber used stolen technology in its autonomous vehicle development, leading to a big loss in court. If it does lose, Uber could have to sit out on the self-driving race until Waymo has gained back its lead and or paid millions in damages. In March, the New York Times revealed that Uber had for years been using a program called RADL, which allowed Uber to keep users who might be working for regulators or law enforcement from using its services. RADL's purpose was to help Uber avoid detection in cities that prohibited it from operating. Uber admitted to using this program, and now the Department of Justice has opened a criminal probe. Worst case scenario for this is that there is a conviction under federal charges that can result in significant fines, further hurting Uber's financial situation. And in February, Susan Fowler, a programmer at Uber, published a blog post saying she had been sexually harassed and discriminated against while at the company. 215 claims of inappropriate behavior have been filed, leading to the firing of 20 employees. 8 executives have recently resigned from Uber, including CEO Travis Kalanick. Worst case scenario is that there's bad PR leads to employee exodus and the inability to hire new ones. Money won't be made and the company will tailspin. So the future of Uber, will Uber go public? Uber has recorded valuation of nearly 70 billion, I think it was 68 billion, and is the richest of Silicon Valley's not yet public technology companies. The issues mentioned before, Waymo, gray law, and the toxic culture with missing executives have placed Uber's IPO on the back burner. Uber will likely not go public in 2017, and with all the surrounding controversy, there's a chance that the public markets won't value Uber anything near $70 billion, which could lengthen the IPO process since investors may not agree to an IPO lower valuation.
I forgot to put a thank you slide in. But that's pretty much it, guys. I don't know if you have any questions about Uber or the presentation itself, services, competitors, or.
Did you come across anything with like pricing? Because like when you like request one, it could be like very like so specifically it costs $25.17. Like where does it come up with that? Like depending on the time.
Well, what happened was like people were getting the founders, like the story of how everything began was like first they couldn't find a taxi. Second, you're sitting down in a taxi and all you see is the money going up, the cost of the taxi ride. So I didn't actually read anything, but I think it calculates the distance and the route that it takes, and that's why they have that technology that they use to calculate the price. Okay. So that's why a lot of people like because they can actually see how much it's going to cost ahead of time. And then they have the different services that we talk about, and then over pull as a way to reduce the cost even more.
Okay.
And it costs more over the weekend.
Okay, so that's another like variable.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So it's very interesting because the medallion industry in New York City is a very powerful group. And I don't know, I have been taking Ubers and taxis in New York. The quality of the ride on Uber is so much better. The taxis smell bad, they're dirty, they're very poorly regulated, And if you think about it, if you, let's say, you borrow $1 million or $500,000, you're going to be paying not for the ride, but for the lease of the medallion. A car doesn't cost $40,000. Use it for 2 years. In a taxi, use it a lot. And so it's totally disruptive. Now, the interesting thing about the culture there, first, this is a very rough and tumble business. If you think about you running a taxi business, your employees look at, they are very difficult to deal with. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is every city, the regulated cab service are going to fight you. You talked about Madrid, how about Paris? They stopped days in a row the traffic. And what's finished happening in France is that these kind of services are coming into the site. It's very difficult to stop something like this. It's probably good. You can get a better service for less money. That's going to change. And in New York is particularly, look at, for example, here in New Jersey. You go to the airport, you have to come back from the airport in a newer cab. They are dirty, they are very expensive. And so you basically are paying one-way rides when you go to the airport because you can't get it cab there. Is that good for the public, sir? Public? No. It's basically doubling the cost. Okay, so I think
Yeah, I know with last time I was in France as well, if you call a taxi, they're going to start charging you as soon as you call them and they agree to come and pick you up. So on the drive, if you're staying in a hotel and they drive the taxi to the hotel to pick you up, they'll be charging you before you even get in the taxi.
Yeah. And it's the moment you create a monopoly, like the yellow cabs in the US, your public good gets slanted a little bit. On the other hand, they have a lot of political power and state power. The question is, does the public good matters more? And these guys, they had a very rough culture. And because of that, I don't know if you remember what happened in New York City. Basically, they forbid Uber. Mayor de Blasio forbid Uber. And so what Uber did is went to public advertising in radio against de Blasio. And de Blasio had received a $300,000 contribution from Yellow Cab Association or whatever. And it became so aggressive that he backed out. And so Uber is legal in New York City. But there are some technological innovations which are very interesting. They kind of, what do they call, peak hour overpricing. Okay, it makes a lot of sense, correct? You don't like to pay extra, but when you need a cab, you might be willing to pay extra. Okay, and it's very, very clear that certain services, in the idle times, you get the service cheaper, and in the busy times, you have to pay more. It's normal, it's natural. It's natural for that type of service. Okay, it's going to finish up that if you don't do that, you're going to misconfigure the number of service providers. It's a total artificiality to create the same pair all the time. The other thing I was very impressed with Uber is the fact, what you guys said, you know in advance how you're going to pay. The other thing I never thought was a big hassle is paying in retrospect. Now when I take a yellow cab, I like to use the little card service because it's just, you don't have to put the amount you're going to pay, you don't have a cab driver growling at you, it's better. So it's very interesting, and they are trying to mix technology with a better service.
I feel it also provides a better way for the cab driver as well, because they can pick and choose who they want in advance based on the destination. They I made more money with this customer than with the other one. So I feel like it gives a freedom for the driver as well, using the app to know exactly, this person's going to have a long fare, I can get more money if I take this other person. And then you combine it with different people, that way you less gas, less mileage, and get more money for it.
Yeah, and one more thing. There is a specific identification to it. So you know the cab driver that took you. I lost my keys about 20 years ago in a cab. I couldn't find my keys. Okay, today I will know exactly what the cab driver that drove me. But it's a very rough and tumble business because it's kind of a lot of employees, of low education business, and a lot of laws. And so these guys made Uber a success because they were abusive, I guess. Okay, they're very hard-nosed guys. Okay, the guy, what's his name? He still owns like a big share of Uber, so he's not going anywhere. But interesting if Uber is going so hard now. I think it will. But I'm just going to thank you very much. Go ahead.
I got a question. Do you guys think Uber is safe? The other crazy people that we have out there, anybody can sign up to become a driver?
Good question.
Do they do a background check? Or how good is it?
My dad became an Uber driver in like a half an hour. So that he could get paid to take me to here.
How good is it?
The company was expensive.
The portion that you say is how good is the background check. Then we have the two competitors, Uber and Lyft. Lyft has something that Uber doesn't have, which is the person-to-person interaction. Before they have a driver, they actually meet with the driver and go through an interview process, and then they can get the actual work for them. Uber doesn't. Uber does everything through the app or online, so there's not so much of that interaction. So going back to what Phil asked, is it safe? Would you trust somebody like that? But people don't think about that. They just want the driver. And
it's a cheap
vision, yeah.
But maybe Uber can perfect screening. Meaning, I certainly in New York, I feel more safe in Uber than I feel in the yellow cabs. I just arrived in the airport last week, early in the morning, and I was lazy to call Camel on the limo service. And Uber in the airports is complicated because where do you pick it up? And so I went to the yellow cab. It was one of the worst rides in my life. The guy smelled so bad. Okay, there was no air conditioning. The temperature outside was in the 90s. Okay, and that was a medallion cab of New York City. And I had this experience. Guys had smoked in the car, and the car was reeked of cigarettes. That's a yellow cab in New York. I never had that experience in Uber. I had that experience in Uber. We had a party before the AAA conference, and I go and ask for an Uber. The Uber didn't arrive in the port there, and they charged me, said that they couldn't find me. Okay, but I yelled and then they fixed it. But it took me, it's like the website is very difficult to find where to complain. Of course.
Question.
Oh.
But how many female drivers are there, do you know? And do they feel safe picking up male passengers? Because it could work both ways, safety.
How many female drivers there are in yellow cabs? Same kind of question. In the US, very few. But in New York, but in other cities, you see lots of female drivers.
I don't know that if I was an Uber driver that I would feel safe picking up a male.
But there was a time in New York City that male drivers were not safe. We were shooting them. But now became better. The incidence of attacks on drivers. But you see a stat, a little thing saying that attacking the driver is 25 years of prison. Did you see that thing? But still in New York, the level of violence has gone down. Here is not a question of how much it happens. It's not a question of it happens. The question is how often. Same kind of thing.
I was going to say, at least from taking Ubers in New York a lot and then taking them in other smaller cities like Nashville, and I took them in Austin, but I guess before Austin stopped happened. There's a huge difference in who the drivers are. Like in New York, it seems like even if they're driving for Uber, they're also driving for Lyft, and they pretty much do that as their full-time job. Versus like the first Uber driver I had in Nashville was like a girl who happened to not be going out that night, and so she just like turned on Uber and was driving people to bars.
And of course, that's the variable pricing story and the overall pricing. Maybe you just drive when you think that the fares are going to be better. And so it's a response of the markets. It's better. But every time you put rigidity of markets in something, you create difficulty. The question is that difficulty worse than what was before? And the same thing happened in cybersecurity these days. The rules against the laws of the country are not appropriate for cybersecurity. So we are trying to persecute with the 18th century laws cybersecurity. Doesn't work. Okay, let's go to the next group. Thank you very much.
All right, good afternoon, guys. My name is Ian. And we are going to be talking about voice recognition today. So this is a quick, this is the definition that I found that I like the most, kind of simple. So voice recognition is the process of taking a spoken word as an input to a computer program. So more kind of in-depth definition. It's technology by which sounds, words or phrases spoken by humans are converted into electrical signals. These signals are transformed into a coded pattern or algorithm to which a meaning or action is been assigned. So I'll go into a brief history here. So we start off all the way back to the 1950s or 60s, which they actually called the era of baby talk. So kind of exactly what it kind of sounds like. You imagine a baby kind of starts off with, typically they maybe start off with mama or dada, but in this sense we'll assume that it's kind of, beginning numbers of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So really the beginning of this era started off with Audrey, Bell Labs, which we know somewhat.
Yeah, we sold our patents when Bell Labs diversified, and the one patent that we got most money for was natural voices. And it wasn't a voice recognition, it was a voice synthesis that sounded human, not robot. It was very interesting because we had all these voice recognition patents, and they pushed me to do that job, so for a while I had to do that. And it turns out that most of those were public, they couldn't sell it, but the natural voices they could.
Were you actually there during Audrey as well? Yeah. So you can correct me if I say if anything is wrong.
I don't know too much about it. This was a different facility of ours.
Okay. So at the time, Audrey was invented by Bell Labs and only did, as I explained, kind of numbers. 10 years later, into 1962, Shoebox was actually created by IBM, and kind of you can see the advancement there that we really then moved into actually more words in terms of consonants and vowels. So again, move on another 8 years, you've actually got the US government is actually starting to invest in, understanding speech and researching it. So they actually contributed funding to the creation of Heartbeat, which was done by Carnegie Mellon. So you've got this kind of progression from 16 words in 1962 to now just over 1,000 words. And then kind of around the same time, Bell Labs actually progressed from where Audrey was kind of a single profile, so you'd have to have one person's voice that was actually kind of configured to make Audrey usable. Bell Labs actually progressed into actually, so you could have multiple voice profiles.
This kind of gives me good memories. I left Columbia for a year and went to Bell Labs. I never went back, but I went to Bell Labs and I impressed the hell of my department head because I had a spreadsheet on my Big Sun computer, and I could go to the wall or to the door and give instructions, verbal instructions to my spreadsheets. I had like 7, 8 words I could say, and it obeyed and recognized numbers. So I kind of laughing, remembering those days. Useless, but great.
So moving on to the 1980s, so now you've got kind of the advancements of kind of more of the software side of it. So you've got the Markov model, also known as the hidden Markov model. So they're basically used to determine the probability of the words versus kind of previously where it was really about fixed templates and kind of the process behind how it works. I can't go into it that much depth. I'm not a computer scientist. So moving through into the 1990s, you really think about how processor speed is improving. Dragon naturally speaking, in terms of which is actually more of speech recognition. You can now dictate kind of 100 words a minute. And around the same time, you've actually got the first voice-activated portal, which was created by Bell South, also previously known as AT&T. So the portal is the same thing you can do nowadays, where you call somewhere and you can actually speak to kind of an automated voice. That's basically what the activated portal is.
Yeah, can I just add something? It was the first application was this application of voice recognition with a very limited vocabulary. And narrow vocabulary is a very limited menu, makes it easier to recognize all voices and accents. Texas are all Chinese accents, and that was a difficulty at the beginning. But what you did is to facilitate the problem, you had 5 answers you could give, and it would kind of estimate what is the best answer that you get. It was great application.
And then moving into the 2000s to kind of current, you've got voice recognition gaining momentum through Google Voice Search, and then as we continue on kind of into Apple's Siri, and kind of this era of cloud computing, and so forth. So that's kind of a short history. I will do my best here to kind of go through what I kind of found was a basic process flow of kind of how an application using kind of voice recognition would work. Not a very complex one, more of kind of like if you're dictating through a cell phone to type out a text message for you. So you start off with your input. For example, I can get my iPhone to kind of type for me, not necessarily through Siri, but actually getting the kind of microphone button. So first kind of step after the input would be kind of transferring it from an analog to a digital signal. Moving on to that, you get the feature extraction, which is kind of like removing variability. Kind of if you think about like background noise and echoes and things like that. Moving into the reclassification, which is the breaking down data and putting them into groups. And when I say what data, it's basically a phoneme. So phoneme is a kind of the smallest basic unit of sound. So if you think about the word like abandon, the first phoneme would be like AH. It's almost like a syllable, kind of. So from reclassification, you'd have phonemes would be recognized, kind of in order to be able to then formulate a response or an action, and then that would be your output. So hopefully that's A, right? Relative.
I'm going to talk about some applications of voice recognition. Sarah is an intelligent personal assistant. It uses voice queries and natural language user interface to answer questions, making recommendations, and performing actions by delegating requests to a set of internet services. Apple adds the individual voice recognition to Hey Siri in iOS 9. When enabling the Hi Siri function, iOS works user a brief voice training section, and the software learns your own unique voice. Siri responds to only your commands, and the Google Home and Echo are like smart speakers. The speakers use voice activation to control music playback, searches, and unsupported smart home devices. To activate the Echo, say like Hey Alexa, or simply Alexa or Amazon. For like Google Home, it's like OK Google or Hey Google. Both speakers like can hear you and can be heard from a comfortable 5-foot distance. And Google Assistant is better at giving you information from the web. Alexa is better at like shopping related queries. Both can do things like spell words, set timers, and read you the news. Google Assistant is like more conversational. It will like often remember what you are talking about or let you carry ideas throughout a conversation. Like for instance, if you ask like who was the leading actor in Wonder Woman, you can like follow up with what other movies was she in. Here's a video about new features coming to Google.
From 8 to 10 a.m., you have building shuts off the hot water.
Okay, Google, what are my reminders?
Your reminders for today are ask Kelsey to prom.
Okay, Google, call 24/7 lock labs.
Okay, Google, call Kisses Plumbing.
Call Lisa.
Calling Lisa.
Hey girl, where are you? I'm coming. I just finished the cake. No cake. She's gluten-free right now. Just make a fruit salad. They're faster.
What are we watching here, huh? Hey Google, play the Warriors game.
All right, play the Warriors.
100-layer challenge complete.
Where's my phone? Hey Google, call Danny.
Calling Danny.
Seriously, dude?
Okay, ready? First one to laugh loses. Okay, Google, show me funny videos on YouTube.
Here we go.
Play the fourth one.
Hey Google, play my dance playlist.
Playing now. Hey Google, play my dance playlist.
Hey Google. Self-destruct.
One area where voice activation is making huge strides is the automotive industry. Whether it's a text message or using your Maps app, the impulse to take our eyes off the road has become second nature. So the in-car speech recognition systems aim to remove the distractions of looking down at your mobile phones while you drive. Instead, a heads-up display allows drivers to keep their eyes on the road and their mind on safety. Apple CarPlay brings a stripped-down and safety-focused version of iOS to your car's touchscreen display. Simply connect your iPhone and your car factory-installed entertainment screen display. System is replaced by Apple's familiar icon, like the picture shows there. Not surprisingly, Sarah is fully integrated to CarPlay. Press the voice button on your steering wheel, and Sarah will be there to help you switch between playlists, navigation to the nearest gas station, send text messages, and even email your boss with a stellar excuse about being stuck behind the school bus instead as your early morning project meeting. So when it comes to a crime scene, the cliche is to dust for fingerprints, or swab for DNA samples. But that's not the only detritus that criminal can leave behind. There are some forensics situations in which only audio evidence is available to investigators, and that's where voice biometrics can be deployed to great effect. Morpho partnered with voice biometrics specialist Ignition to bring voice ID technology into the multimodal suites of criminal identification products, requiring only seconds to perform matching on live or recorded voices, and boasting an accuracy rate of over 99%. Voice ID brings a new angle to forensic investigations. And what's more impressive about voice ID and what makes it incredibly well suited to the world of forensics is its language agnostic nature, and the initial technology measures the biological traits that are expressed through the sound of the subject's voice rather than the shape and pattern of his or her speech. This means that regardless of whether players are looking for French fraudster or English extortionist, voice ID can do its job. going to talk about two applications in voice recognition. One is applications in that industry. A customer's voice print was made up of more than 100 characteristics based on the physical configuration of the speaker's mouth and throat. The system captures data on this voice print during phone calls, and once it's complete, any further calls can be matched against this information. It can still identify customers when their voice is changed into a code or source word, or with age. The system also recognizes someone whose voice changed during gender reassignment. Anyone mimicking a voice or family members who sound the same cannot cheat the system. The bank has been testing the technology with a limited number of customers since 2013 during some level frustrators were a safe, exclusive personal banking recommends voice recognition system as we can all relate to the frustration of forgetting a password at the crucial moment. Voice security can cut out that part, the code completely and unlikely a password. Each person's voice is as unique as a fingerprint. Here's a preview of this course.
Logging into secure apps on your smartphone, such as banking, healthcare, or shopping apps, can be very frustrating. Passwords, secret questions, and PIN codes are easily stolen and not very secure. Complicated passwords can be hard to remember, easy to mistype, and cause system lockouts. Passwords need to go. Customers need a better way to access secure apps with less hassle. So what's the solution? Well, you probably have it in your hand right now. Introducing VoiceKey 1Pass from SpeechPro. A simple and highly secure login solution for your smartphone. Security experts all agree that when logging into secure apps, it's always better to use something that you are rather than something you know. VoiceKey 1Pass identifies you the same way your friends do, with your face and your voice. Unlike other biometric modes like iris or fingerprint scanners, no special hardware is required. Your smartphone already has a mic and a camera, making it the perfect biometric collection device, and you already know how to use it. Here, let me show you. Your face is automatically detected, scanned, and verified through facial recognition. You are then asked to speak the passphrase and a random set of numbers as part of the speaker authentication and liveness test process. Add the sum to the product of these three. 50126. Once your identity has been verified, you have access to all of your secured accounts without having to type a single password. That's all there is to it. VoiceKey 1Pass uses a unique triple biometric accuracy that combines speaker authentication, facial recognition, and a liveness test. A liveness test ensures that there's an actual person in front of the device, not a photo or an audio recording. VoiceKey 1Pass combines over 70 voice features and 40 face features to achieve a highly accurate confirmation of your identity. Of course, you have to enroll your face and voice before you can use 1Pass. Well, that's easy too. Here, watch. First, place your face in the registration area of the screen. Wait for VoiceKey 1Pass to automatically detect your face and scan it. Next, record the passphrase 3 times. Add the sum to the product of these three. Add the sum to the product of these three. Add the sum to the product of these three. To prepare for the liveness test, record the digits 0 through 9 one at a time. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Registration is now complete. So what if an imposter tries to get to your data using VoiceKey 1Pass? Let's try it.
Add the sum to the product of these three. 9, 6, 2, 3, 7. Access denied.
VoiceKey 1Pass from SpeechPro, you can bury the password. Customers will always be able to easily access their accounts, never have to worry about remembering passwords, secret questions, favorite foods, which is always pizza, and never have concerns for account security. Your customers will enjoy a better experience, your contact center costs and fraud will decrease, and security will increase. Voice Key 1 Pass from Speech Pro. It's time for passwords to go.
Through the use of continuous voice recognition, interaction between a user and the computer has become more natural. No longer do users need to pursue between each words they say. Instead, they can speak and their own natural voices secure in knowledge that the voice recognition engine will be able to decipher what they are speaking. These tasks were following: navigation around the worksheet, navigation to a reference worksheet, entering and editing numeric data, and entering and editing textual data. The time to complete each of these work were measured and compared for both groups. It was found that voice group took longer times for all these tasks, despite taking twice as long as workboard participants. This doing voice recognition around 14% less errors. And there's a video shows how this application works.
Hi, this is Jason Hunter with Speech Recognition Reviews.com. I'm going to show you how I use Microsoft Excel by voice to create spreadsheets using Dragon Naturally Speaking speech recognition software. This is for people who are considering work. So you're going to want to get more. Listen, new file. Caps on stock investment profit calculation, new line. Ticker symbol, tab key purchase date, tab key quantity, tab key purchase price, tab key sell price. Tab key profit slash share, tab key extended profit, new line. Sleep. So you saw me do some basic dictation so far. It looks like I don't have any mistakes to go fix. If I did, I'd use a find and replace command to fix, or just edit it and retype the word. Listen. Up, get range right, bolt. Block right. Auto fit. Left. Column with 14. Up 1. Format title. Down 2, sleep. So right there, I just formatted it to look a little more professional. And now I'll enter some data. I'm going to pretend like I bought Nuance, which is the maker of Android speaking software. And I'll pretend I bought Apple. I'll just fill in some data here so we can do our calculations over here. Listen. Caps on November, uniform alpha November, tab key 2/1, tab key 100, tab key 15.1, tab key 17.14, tab key. Subtract left 2 from inside. Sleep. So on the subtract left 2 from inside, that basically just subtracted, like it said, from where I started, 2 cells to the left, and from inside means from the closest cell. That's a command I made up probably about 10 years ago, because back then the speech recognition software I bought, which is version 5, did not have yet a set of commands for Microsoft Excel. So I created my own. So almost every command you see me say here are commands that I've created within Excel or within Dragon for Excel. Now I'll go ahead and extend the profit. Listen, escape tab. Multiply Charlie 3 against Foxtrot 3. Sleep. You notice I'm using, I guess, the military version of the letters, Charlie, Foxtrot, and I did that over here with the ticker symbol as well. I can say the ABC letters, the shorter versions. Listen, go to A4. Sleep. But I prefer to say the longer versions because they're more clear, they're less ambiguous when you say letters like B, V, P, and A, H, and number 8. Okay, I'll go ahead and enter out, and we'll sum up both of them together to see what my total profit is. Listen to me. Caps on alpha, papa, lima, tab key 7/20, tab key 4, tab key 249, tab key $258, tab key sleep. I wanted to make sure to show you that if you dictate it as $1, Dragon will go ahead and format it that way. Listen.
Okay, that's how this application is in the spreadsheets. However, there are some deficiencies in this application. Ensuring this data is correct is essential. However, just as important in the ability to extract meaningful information from it, a number of tools can be used to extract this information. However, for knowledge expression users, this can be a difficult task, especially for users using voice recognition technology. Most of these tools require multiple interactions, which can be time-consuming. To test this area, some people have developed an intellectual navigation system called iVoice. iVoice provides simple voice commands that allow users to perform complex navigational tasks, such as moving to reference cell on another worksheet. When using traditional voice recognition software, these tasks often require multiple commands, which can be time-consuming. When compared with existing voice recognition technology, users of iVoice found a higher percentage of the cited errors. When presented with a large volume of data, extracting meaningful information can be a difficult task, especially for novice users who have little or no experience with information retrieval tools commonly found in spreadsheet applications. To assist these users, I think the use of natural language interface, which will allow the users to tell computer what they want in a way this is natural to them, eliminating the need to interact with complex interfaces that are found within such tools.
I'm going to talk about some of the advantages and disadvantages of voice recognition. As we have seen in the previous videos, voice recognition, one of the advantages of voice recognition is that it allows users to operate computer by just speaking it, and it helps people with disabilities to type and operate computers. And another advantage of voice recognition is that it allows more speed and efficiency in producing type work. You can speak your ideas and at the same time hit type. For those who can generate ideas quickly by speaking, the writing process can become a lot faster. Voice recognition also helps to increase the level of tasks done in our everyday lives. For example, smart speakers such as Google Home and Amazon Echo enable users to speak voice commands and make them to do things for you. Disadvantages of voice recognition are its problems with accuracy and misinterpretation. Programs cannot understand the context of language the way we humans can. When you talk to people, they understand the meaning and the context, but voice recognition may not be capable of understanding the whole context. It may have problems with homonyms such as to, or to. It also has problems with accents. Even though some may learn to decode your speech over time, you have to learn to talk consistently and clearly at all times to minimize errors. Lastly, to get the best out of voice recognition, you need a quiet environment. Systems don't work well if there's a lot of background noise. So this can be a problem if you work in a busy office or a noisy environment. Future of voice recognition, there will be dramatic improvements in coming years. As more people use to voice interfaces, more data is gathered, and as more data is gathered, the better the algorithms work, thus delivering dramatic improvements in accuracy, which we call it as virtuous cycle of AI. And Siri, Google Home, Amazon Echo will not be the only voice intelligence assistant. As it gets more common and generalized, many other corporations will research and develop voice intelligence systems. It will also change the way we interact with machines and devices. As AI system gets closer to understanding the human intelligence, they will become much better at understanding and answering all kinds of questions. So I would like to show you a video which gives you an idea of the future of voice recognition.
Are watching foodie videos while you could be saving with Groupon.
Good morning, Jarvis.
Good morning, Mark. It's Saturday, so you only have 5 meetings. Room temperature is set to a cool 68 degrees.
Earlier this year, I started building a simple AI to help run our home. I talked to Jarvis using this app I built. It uses artificial intelligence to understand me and figure out what to do.
Max woke up a few minutes ago. I'm entertaining her.
All right, let's go check on her.
Let's practice our Mandarin.
Jarvis, your Mandarin is so soothing.
Shit.
Jarvis also helps me get ready in the morning. Fresh shirt.
Fire in the hole.
Hell yeah. Jarvis knows when to make me breakfast.
Your toast is ready.
All right. It's time for my call with Shrek. Can you get him on a video conference line?
Setting up the VC room now. Remember to check on the AI guidance system for Aquila.
One of the best things about Jarvis is it can recognize people at the gate, let them in automatically, and then just tell me about it.
Mark, your parents are coming in.
Thanks, Jeffrey.
It's Jarvis.
And Jarvis can play all of our favorite music. Hey, play us some good Nickelback songs.
I'm sorry, Mark. I'm afraid I can't do that. There are no good Nickelback songs.
Good. That was actually a test. Okay, how about just play some songs that our whole family likes? What? I'm a dad now. This is what I listen to. Jarvis also likes to join our family for playtime. Who should we tickle next?
I think we should tickle Max.
I'm also experimenting with other voices.
Stop her! She's getting away! Do it now!
And if I don't want to talk, I can just text Jarvis through a messenger bot that I built.
Mark, I'm trying to read it here.
Yeah, my bad. So this has been pretty fun, but I need some more ideas for Jarvis, so leave them in the comments and I'll try to build some of them. All right, movie time, Jarvis.
You got it, Mark.
First, I need to teach you to make me some more pop.
So when do you use voice? When do you use text? I know it's a very difficult question.
I think the point about disabilities.
People who are not able to type or on their computers use voice to operate their computers. And speaking makes sense. When you somebody talk without looking at the screen, and people can talk much faster than typing. If you really want to save time, maybe you can speak English.
So what do you guys think? When do you like to talk? When do you like to type?
I worked in an office one time with some secretaries that were kind of old women, and they would talk to text all day long. That's how they text. Because they would sit there, just read into what they were going to say, but that's how they did it all day long.
Yeah, I have been surprised. I've been in this voice recognition for a long time. I've been surprised that I always found that voice was slow and complicated. And I see my granddaughter interacting with Alexa or with Google, and it's very efficient. And I was laughing when you were showing the spreadsheet, because that's what I did in 85, and it was very cumbersome. And I think it still is, because there are too many commands, and it's much easier to just do it than start explaining it what to do. And I was surprised that they use kind of military notation for the columns, But that was one of the difficulties. The way I did it, I say column A, and the key word was column, but I couldn't use column in anything else except that. It's very interesting what you do is voice bias. No, for example, you're driving a car, you want everything to be voice. My Acura takes voice, but doesn't understand my voice, so that's not good. Okay, or I need to start the voice, and I don't want to do that. I don't know text why I'm using it. But I don't think there is any doubt that in your lifetime, voice is going to be a lot of the interaction with the computer. I think that maybe another thing to think about is technically. Don't mix out context understanding with voice recognition. Voice recognition picks up the sound issue and identifies to some kind of text string. And if you can do that within the context, the voice recognition gets much better. But one thing is recognizing what you are saying within a context, and humans are much better at context. You know, humans, for example, when you're saying a sentence, you don't break in words. You break in other ways. And actually, there has been a long time that machines were trying to separate words. Now they do it more by sound and utterance, which is easier. And the second thing is, you can pick up the context of a sentence and fill it with words that you didn't understand. Machines still are not very good at doing that. But they will eventually. But I like this presentation because it makes you think about all these things. I mean, what Chow was doing and is doing. The voice thing is just for convenience. The real secret there is what are going to be those vertical parts of the part of the decision of the audit, what is going to be stored, how the knowledge is going to be organized, and hopefully we can use Google or Siri or whatever interface to pick up the sounds and to convert them into some kind of text string. Eventually there'll be text strings, audio strings that you are not going to transform to text. It will deal just with audio, but it's difficult still. In this thing, you know, this thing of voice recognition has been in AI for a long time. Voice recognition, translation, sentence construction, vague context understanding, all of these things are part of this field. And you know, a lot of people are working on this, and a lot of money will be made on this. But it's very difficult. Thank you very much. Okay, so let me ask you the following question. Are computers changing your brains? No? What do you think? Is computers changing your brains?
Yeah, of course. Last time we had the social media presentation, and I chose yes.
What do you think, Isabel?
I think we're getting
Ignore him.
much worse at things like our knowledge of our surroundings, like because we have, I actually spent a long time on my friend this was, because we have Google Maps and things like that, we've gotten progressively worse at figuring out where we are and how to get places on our own and other things, because we've become reliant on technology for certain things. We've just stopped doing it ourselves. Yeah. So like my cousin who's 17 couldn't figure out how to get to his friend's house without Google Maps telling him how to get there, but my dad can figure out a different route on crazy highways because he had to learn how to drive without maps.
Actually, ask him a question. Do you think computers are changing your brain?
I think they're affecting our sleep cycles. Just like
affecting the sleep cycle, of course. Particularly if you, I had a friend whose daughter had a boyfriend, and he demanded texts all the time. So in the middle of the night, she was waking up with an alarm and sending him texts. Okay, that's just a begin, but You don't think that's true?
No, I believe that that's true. I think that that's messed up.
Maybe I thought so. Let's do it. A couple of clickers here. Put them there. Let's see what he says. What did you say? No. No. Okay. Okay, good.
Should I want more of it?
Oh, good. You guys are on the ball. Let's see the next one. This is something you hear from everyone. See, you hear this all over. This is really true. Probably not. Probably not. Probably, why would your brain capacity be 90% unutilized? There are, they usually, and no one knows this exactly, but usually there are long-term memory, medium-term memory, short-term memory. What happens when you get old? Your long-term memory continues working, your short-term memory decreases. Other thing that happens is your memory becomes less pliable, and there is a decrease on size of brain volume with age. That said, people don't know exactly what happens. I did send you an article in National Geographic about brains and about, trillion alternatives, lot of alternatives of storage on different media. Very, very interesting.
That's the last one. I think I have
one more.
Professor, is that true? You think that's true?
I think that's true, yes.
But you also have a problem.
I don't have a problem?
Yeah. You do really well.
Because I only use 70% of my brain capacity. I still have 30% to use. I just joking. Okay. So this is another one that is one of the other myths. That has been the traditional law that brain cells get old and they don't regenerate. Brain cells do regenerate. They now know that for a fact. Okay, they are like any other cell, there is regeneration. They probably don't regenerate at the speed that a young person has, but they don't know that exactly. So I think three things that you can say about brain that I think is reasonably established, although no one is totally sure is, no, there is no infinite memory capacity. Number two, you use much more than 10% of your brain. Number three, brain cells do regenerate. And they've done experiments with people that have strokes, and that recover to a certain degree. They've done experiments, all kinds of brain experiments with people that had damaged brains, and they learned a lot about that. Okay, so that's kind of the physical part of the brain that I wanted to. Okay, now three other questions for you to think. I'm going to ask you the first one. Do you remember full numbers the way you did before?
Yeah.
You do? I think you might be the only one here. Do you remember full numbers the way you used to, Kishin?
Yeah.
You do?
I only remember 3 numbers. My parents and mine.
Oh, okay. So you never had a lot of numbers. Yeah, do you remember your full? Does everyone here remember their full number?
Yeah. So I remember the set of phone numbers that I knew as a little kid, and have not learned to do one since getting a smartphone.
I remember my first girlfriend's phone
Yeah, I
number.
remember my best friend's phone
Her name was Claudia. No, she wasn't Chinese. She was very Brazilian. I remember probably my 3 first girlfriends' telephone numbers. Okay. But I remember my numbers in Brazil. I remember that recent. First, why don't you remember phone numbers? Because you don't use them anymore. Correct? You have Tom's number, and that's what you have. So that's one reason. The other reason is there is no reason to remember it, and your brain is smart enough to know what it needs to remember or not, and to train itself. And that's very big learning in cognitive psychology, to understand that brains reprogram. Okay, and people thought brains were rigid, like they thought that there was ether between people, not air. And a lot of these myths, 10% of the usage of your brain is myths. Old wives' tales, so to say. So to speak, old husbands' tales, if you prefer. Okay? Okay, now this is actually many of you, attention span. I always do, when I do my lectures in different places, I always say I put pictures of my dog and my children, because my humor and my humor of the students went like this. They don't find me so funny as they used to. Okay? Second thing is attention spans just disappear. Okay? See if you can identify the feeling. I haven't seen my email for an hour. You identify that feeling? The desperation to occupy your brain with something. Can you identify that feeling? Actually, there are shrinks, psychologists now that treat you for lack of attention. Very, very serious. So when I was talking, I didn't want to bring this in earlier, but when I was talking to you about training and education and etc., one of the things besides logical thinking and some basic memory of remembering basic facts that you can construct on is attention span training. And that's why I'm kind of pushing about about pulling you out of your computers and out of your telephones, because you have to learn to concentrate, or you're going to have a lot of difficulties with depression. You're going to sit on a client with a nasty senior and a manager, and he'll have a fit at you for not paying attention and playing with your computer all the time. Okay. And the other thing is, if you can concentrate, you're going to get a competitive advantage, because the people you work with will not be able to concentrate. That's why I don't think my personal feelings are terribly hurt if you play with your cell phone. Okay, but you have to learn how to concentrate, because if you don't, you're going to be at competitive disadvantage. And we live in this world very rich on media that gives a lot of personal reinforcement. Have you ever tried to walk on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan or busy street and see what people are doing while they are walking? What are they doing? Yes, and sometimes they run into a car. Okay, and the number of accidents for the first time in 20 years started going up last 2 years, like by 40%, because people text while they are driving. Doesn't it get you very angry if someone texts while you're next to you and you see someone driving next to you and texting? But you do the same. No, I don't do that, but but however, using Waze, you have to look at your screen. My daughter bought a brand new car, an Audit, and it has a beautiful projection screen like they use in airplanes. And so you can, what's in her dashboard projects on her screen. It's very nice actually. But I don't know if it's not distracting. Wonder how many studies they did. But it's what is, let's talk for a second about intelligence. And I introduced this. What you actually have is a decentralized system in your body with some brain control to it, but some autonomy. if you touch something burning, before you think about it, you pull your arm out. Correct? Okay? If you step on someone without thinking too much, you pull your leg out, or someone pulls the leg under you. Okay? You breathe. Your heart beats. Except these are decentralized, semi-intelligent, functional intelligence. And intelligence is pulling these things together. And what happened, your brain reprograms. And they know that now for a fact, because they've done all these experiments or their observation of people who had strokes, people who have brain tumors, etc., etc. Or when they, basically, in the old days, they cut your brain into two pieces to cure you or something for some mental disease that you would think horrible kind of things that they do. But they learned a lot about the brain in this. And one thing they know is that you reprogram, and they thought, it's like Darwinian thinking, you thought that, you have a black dog and a white dog, and they all generate black and white dog for adaptation and the thing, and takes many generations. Actually, people now realize that evolution is more controlled than that. It's not just kind of pure intuitive evolution. The brain has some control over how you evolve. And with electronic devices, now, this lack of attention is a very serious problem. Okay, and it's going to, either they're going to change the device in a way not to occupy you so much, I don't think that's going to happen, and your brain are going to adapt it. And the question is how it's going to adapt it. No one knows. No one knows. But it's a tremendous thing. Now, and I just talk about negatives. You're much better at multitasking. You can do 2, 3, 4 things. This guy can do 20 things at the same time, paying attention to none of them. Okay? Oh my, watching a film on TV with my son is the most exasperating thing. And he's an old guy now, he's 30. Okay? Because it's picture in picture. So it's 2 things shown. And it keeps changing. There's a football game going on, there's a baseball game going on, and it keeps changing. Let's just stay with this one. It changes to that and accept it. And so I kind of lose totally notion what's happening in the football game, correct? And not to be sufficient, cell phone comes out, he starts texting with his wife. He was dating her for 7 years. Now they have been married for 3 years, so it's 10 years, and they still need to be texting to each other. Darling, I don't even want to tell the name if they call each other. Is it Dennis? Okay. And this is all in one football game. Okay? And so actually that's a very good illustration of ability to multitask. He is great at multitasking. My question is, does he concentrate on anything?
Wait. Well, what is multitasking? Is it doing many things at once without sacrificing quality, or is it doing many things at once and sacrificing quality?
Sacrificing quality is a concept, but multitasking is doing several things at the same time.
But,
watching 2 football games at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay, watching 2 football games, texting with your girlfriend or wife at the same time, that you look at your email too. That's multitasking. And when I tell the stories, people giggle because I do that too. Correct? Now, what I wanted you to do is to identify the feeling of I need to see media.
Why?
Just for you to know that you are going through that. Self-insight. Okay? Do you understand that feeling? Can you remember that feeling? Like it comes the moment the class is over, what do you guys do?
Go to the bathroom.
That's good. That's good. And what do you do in the bathroom? Be careful what you say. Pull your cell phone out, and while you're doing something, because you have this electronic need. Yes or no?
Yes.
It's a dopamine.
Well,
you have it too.
Well, I'm not addicted to it, but I left my phone by accident in my car today. So I am feeling like, oh, I can't check my Facebook. Oh, I can't. And
you are not addicted?
Well, I can put my phone down at home and not check it for hours.
because you forgot it for a second, but I am addicted. I'm very addicted. I think I have it under control, but I don't swear on it. Okay. And in modern society, you can find a great excuse. I get 500 emails a day, and I don't answer phones anymore very much. Only if I recognize my wife or my kids, or a phone. I don't answer any phone that I don't recognize the number. So the guy came to fix my computer. He couldn't come into my house because I didn't answer the phone. So I wasn't too smart, was it? He had a Texas number. How can I know that the Texas number is there? Okay, so what we know about the brain now? Brain is very flexible, meaning learns and changes the way it does things. With age, some of the flexibility changes. Some people are doing research, they think they can reestablish the plasticity of brain. They can change the molecules on your brain to a way that they regenerate better and that stuff doesn't accumulate. Reprogramming, limited storage capacity, and tries to heal. Unless the damage is very big, it can circumvent the problem. Okay, now this is going to get much more interesting. I was so tempted to talk about this during the presentation, but I didn't. Okay, how did they have history in the past? Stories, yes. My daughter did a film by a Senegalese griot. What is a griot? It's a storyteller. And 4 families have traditions of telling stories. And sometimes they do it with music. Okay? And why is that? Because in the beginning, you could finish up talking something, but you couldn't write it. And writing it on the stone was very cumbersome. So you told stories, and some people develop a skill to tell stories better than others. Some people made that their profession. Now that's very interesting. Thinking about that today with your laptops and etc. is very good. Now, originally, writing started becoming a specialized job. And they had these guys, scribes, that did that. So he went to the scribe, say, write a letter to Peter. So he wrote a letter for me and sent it over there. Okay? And and reading and writing was a very advanced educational skill. And the other thing that you haven't talked too much about it is how difficult is the cognition of reading and writing, or of speaking, or of visual recognition. This is very complex. Have you ever thought about just read a sentence, what your brain is doing there? Okay, it's converting some kind of analog symbols, not digital, into articulating a thought, transforming the thought into words, and converting words into verbal utterances. Very complicated. Nothing even more complicated when you're reading and filling up the content with homonyms. Homonyms are words written the same way that mean different type of things. It's very complicated. And your brain does it. But it takes away space to do other things. No computers have a limited capacity. And so what they used to call the writing was designed without breaks. It's called, in Latin, it's called scripta continua, continuous writing. And when people start, they say, I don't need a scribe, I want to read it myself. We started needing to break the words to understand it better. The scribes were very experts in reading and writing. And so, scribes did not pay much attention to the order of the words. The emphasis original is inflection. And by the way, in Chinese, you still have a strong emphasis on inflection. Mm-hmm. Yes?
Yes.
Absolutely. Gutenberg Okay, and very interesting story. Oh, actually, St. Thomas Aquin was actually one of those attributed that they used to take books from the monastery home and wanted to read them. So they started kind of breaking things by words and etc. And the other thing that made the brain started doing more of this was what? Gutenberg. Gutenberg managed to, instead of making them, books were a marvelous thing. They were written by scribes, beautifully illustrated, and the monks basically had monopoly of this. Mm-hmm. Okay, they didn't get a CPA, but they had monopoly of. That was a joke. Not very good. Okay, but the monks had that control on that thing because it was very expensive to create a book, and they were in a religious environment. They were protected. They had time to do it, and praying didn't fill up all their time, so they did other things. Okay, but what happened that Gutenberg developed this method of reproducing books. And what that made is vulgarized knowledge, made that a lot of people could acquire books that before were too expensive. And actually Gutenberg went bankrupt. Okay, his business didn't do very well. I guess he didn't have a CPA, he didn't have degrees. Okay, but Gutenberg created technology, someone else picked up on this technology, became a multi-millionaire. But the most interesting thing about this is the number of books produced in 50 years equal the number produced by scribe in the preceding 1,000 years. Yes?
Didn't the Chinese invent the movable type hundreds of years before Gutenberg?
I think so. But this is the Occident. There is a lot of stories about who invented writing. Meaning, I was in a conference, professors of accounting said the first people that wrote were accountants because they had inventory taking needs, how many sheep you have, and things like that. Very interesting argument. I guess professor of accounting liked that argument. The first writer was an accountant.
Didn't the first one come out of Mesopotamia, like the cradle of civilization?
There you go. If you want to go and look at a lot of walls of caverns, maybe you can do a study on that. But I don't know what. It's very difficult to argue what came first. There is a. I'm not going to start citing different books, but let's leave it at that. Okay, and then, what does social media does about people's connections? This kind of automated automatic exchange pairs eliminate how we communicate and connect with each other. Could it change something about us as individuals or as a whole society? What do you think about this?
It weakens relationships because there's less face-to-face interaction.
Is that with your personal experience? Weakens relationships? No, I'm very interested. I'm not.
I think so.
Yeah. I find that I found many old friends. Okay, they see my name all over, and so I get emails now and then say, "Oh, I haven't talked to you for 20 years," or something like that.
I think I have more relationships as a whole, but they're less substantial. Like,
yeah,
I don't feel
wider range. So you have more friends, you have less time for each friend. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So what do you think of that? Is that good or bad? What do you think? Is good or bad?
Well, I remember in high school, I didn't have a phone until I was junior year. And I remember like freshman year when I went into high school and everyone had a phone instead of me, and didn't really, because they were like, "Oh, can I text you?" I'm like, "I don't have a phone," so they kind of cut me out.
Yeah, it could be socially very impairing. Like my granddaughter is forbidden to use her cell phone. She's 3.5. I have this junior with my cell phone. I'm very interested in this junior, as you can see. And I keep arguing with my daughter and say, Elizabeth, that's my daughter. She's going to live in the digital world. Why are you, all the mothers think that digital media is bad for their kids. So, is it? And they say, some teachers say that until 5 years old you shouldn't do that. What do you think?
I think it takes away like an accountability factor in terms of like relationships. Like if you didn't have a cell phone and you made plans to meet somewhere at 5 p.m. for dinner or something, you're not just gonna like blow the other person off. But like sometimes I make plans and I know like an hour before I end up texting saying like I make up an excuse that I'm not coming. Because I know that they'll have a heads up, they're not gonna show up and like and not meet me, you know? But if you like made plans and had no way of contacting them in the meanwhile, you would just like hold yourself accountable to show up.
Yeah. My son does the opposite. He goes to meet his friends, and they haven't decided where they meet until they're in the texting to each other. They know the generic area of the bars, so they're going in that direction, and they're deciding. It's very interesting how it changes behavior. Meaning, I would never think of leaving home without knowing where I'm going. Correct? But I'm old generation here. But it's the question here: can something change something about us individuals or as a whole society? And I think the answer is absolutely yes. I'll tell you what I think these days. You heard me many times say technology given, technology taken. Okay? I actually think social media is a dangerous thing at this moment. I have been doing emailing for 40 years. Bell Labs had email, Columbia had email, etc. And I do think it's kind of dangerous because the laws that protect civilized behavior are designed for the snail society, not for the electronic society. And if we see a world in turmoil at this moment. We see many countries with a lot of turmoil. And some religious antagonists that had quieted down for 100 years now flared up. So I think society needs to redesign its controls, its laws, in a way that is more appropriate to society. However, the wealth and the well-being that electronic media can bring, automation, artificial intelligence, is real. Okay, I hate to run over time, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to finish this thing about computers and your behavior next time. Okay? And no one is complaining. But this is fun, isn't it? Okay, so remember one thing. Final issue, or we call the project, is same kind of thing that you guys have been doing so well up to now, but on a different time. However, if you really want to continue your current topic and have more to say, you can negotiate with Andre. The only reason I ask for you to get approval is because I don't want two people to do exactly the same thing and then fight. If you're going to do the same thing, Andrea will mediate that you cover the different things. Okay, and remember, the final presentation, I'm not lax about time. I'm going to have the biggest guy in this class being the timekeeper, stronger so no one jumps at him. Maybe Phil is going to be, he disappeared, but he's strong enough. Okay, and we'll have exactly 20 minutes, because if not, we are going to be here for the whole day. And I don't mind being, but you guys.
So you want to